Hello, everyone. Welcome to another commentary podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Oliver.
Finally, Oliver and I are back together. It feels like since, years and years ago that we last did one of these.
It's been nearly 6 months. It's crazy.
And wow, has time flown? Has flied. That's English major. Oliver and I have been trying to get together to do this for weeks and weeks, and our schedules have never lined up. Finally, we're going to be watching and talking about Superman Returns. And the last thing we did together, Oliver, I want to say was Superman 4.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then we did that podcast together on Man of Steel.
Oh yes. Well, that was during June. That lasted about 2 hours of ranting on Superman.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was.
And so now we're finally doing Superman Returns, and but nobody worry, because this is not the end of this. Oliver and I still have some other things we want to do. We've been talking about possibly going in and doing Supergirl, which is kind of like hitting yourself in the face with a hammer repeatedly. But if I'm doing it with Oliver, it's more fun.
Exactly. I'll make it enjoyable. Don't you worry.
And I know we promised people at one point that we would go back and do the Donner Cut.
We do. So we have to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get into Superman Returns. And if you've never watched one of these with us before, what we do is we watch the film and talk about it as a podcast and also as a commentary. So we'll do our level best to give you plenty of detail about what we're talking about. And if you've seen the film, you can probably theoretically listen to this without watching the movie. But of course, it's a lot more fun to actually watch the movie with us. And so what you want to do is get out your DVD, your Blu-ray, or however you want to watch it. Get it past all the menus and everything. Get it to timestamp 0, and then hit play whenever I say now. Oliver, do you have any preamble, anything you want to say to set this up?
No. Let's go.
Or do you want to just get right into it? We're not even going to be like, we like this film, we don't like this. We're just going to hit play and get going. Okay, here we go. Everybody hit play right now. La 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 la.
But hey, the film starts with the Superman theme tune with the Warner Brothers logo, which didn't happen. Well, it happened in Superman 4, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Is that the only good thing?
There's a few there is a few other good bits. Don't you worry.
Yeah, there's some good stuff to this movie, and I mean that's ultimately the thing that disappoints me the most about it is that it's got its moments. Yeah, it's not like they had nothing to work with. They had Kevin Spacey.
Exactly, but when I watched this film the first time, because I was working as a projectionist, I got to preview the film, and when it first started with the opening text on the doomed planet of Krypton, I thought, this is going to be causing a problem, because it felt to me like lazy storytelling. And later on, once the film came out and you saw the making of, Bryan Singer had originally was going to have the same opening like Superman the movie with the cinema and the curtains open and you got the kid doing the voiceover, but it all changed. It felt like they panicked and changed the intro, and obviously they took out the great Return to Krypton sequence, which is on the DVD, as a deleted scene, which I think should have been left in the film.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't know how much better that makes the movie.
Well, not to make
but
it
at least it looks a little.
I think they could have. It's one of those things which if you got trimmed in certain areas, cut out some of the silly humor, just improve the pacing and reshuffle some things, it'll make it a lot more enjoyable, I think. But it still has problems with it because it doesn't introduce many new things.
It still doesn't change the fact that it's so that it just kind of rips off so much from the originals.
Yeah, it is.
That's all still gonna be there.
That's true. I mean, it's given you what fans wanted, but still hasn't delivered. Because Superman fans, they go, okay, we're giving you the Superman theme tune. It's set in the Richard Donner universe, cool. And Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, awesome. But then you got this idea of Superman having a child and Lex Luthor being fascinated with land again and not doing anything differently, and that's what people just felt basically the film was very lackluster, after you viewed it. But some people watched it and thought, this is amazing, I actually love it. because the reviews were really good at the time.
Well, I have to tell you, the first time I saw it, I did really like it.
Mm.
And I think it was because, yeah, I was having a hard time putting my critical hat on. I mean, I think the first time I saw it, it was just we're we're back to this world again. Like you said, we've got the theme back again, and I'm not saying that it's good because the music is good.
Mm.
I'm just saying that, like, it reminded me of all of the things that I loved about the originals. But then I went back and rewind because I think it had been a while, and then I went back and rewatched the first film in Superman 2 and realized just how much of the dialogue was
I
lifted.
know, yeah.
And I went, oh, okay, so this isn't a good movie. This is a movie that is just reminding me what I liked about the old movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just recycling things.
But I
Um,
was very happy to see the opening title sequence done in a very sort of elaborate way and
yeah.
with a lot of speed and pace to it. I thought it was fantastic. And it's kind of things I like about superhero films, which they've completely avoid now. They don't have the opening title sequences anymore. They just shove it at the end. But it's kind of like, it's good to see films with an extended opening sequence, which is elaborate and epic and grand.
I guess we have to blame Batman Begins for that
Yeah, possibly. I mean,
because it kind of
Spider-Man
started all
had
that.
an opening sequence, which were quite cool. Spider-Man 2 especially had like the cartoons of Alex Ross design
Oh yeah.
images.
I think that this movie fell really hard into the trap that a lot of these like reboot but not really return back to an old franchise things do. It has a lot in common with Indiana Jones 4.
Yes, it does. It does. But the thing is, like, with like Tron Legacy, I mean, that was a sequel in a sense to a 20-plus-year-old film, but I felt that kind of worked. But with Superman Returns, it kind of it's giving you it's sending audiences back into that world which they love, but it's kind of it didn't. It's on repeated viewing, it doesn't work, and it's kind of it's at the moment it seemed fine, but a year later it just seems completely out of whack.
What's awkward about it is that it kind of picks and chooses.
Yeah, that's true. But the opening bit here, it's like Batman Returns. It's really dark and like you've got lightning. This woman's dying in her bed. It just felt a bit of a depressing opening sequence as well. I mean, I don't think the film was supposed to start with this sequence. It's kind of
Probably not, but I remember being in the theater watching this and going, okay, they're going in a different direction. And then they didn't.
yeah, yeah,
But I really thought that, because this is establishing a different kind of Lex Luthor.
yeah.
Or at least that's what I thought I was seeing in the theater. It was like, okay, we're kind of doing the old movie Superman, but our Lex is going to be the corporate tycoon or something similar to that, like you saw in the comics. And then it's not
I
that.
know. Yeah, it teases you with these like new ideas, but doesn't you know continue with that idea. It just dilutes off and goes off in trying to reference the old films. It's quite interesting they got the cameo of Noel Neal. Is it Noel Neal from the 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she got he cameoed in the first Superman movie on the train as he runs past. Um, and also he's got, what's his name? The old Jimmy Olsen is in the bar, isn't he, in Superman Returns?
Yeah.
Is it Jack Larson? Something like
Yep. I've actually seen Noelle Neal in person.
that? Oh, have you? Oh,
Yeah, she used to be at the Superman celebration every year,
oh,
and
fantastic.
she's kind of declined the last few years and hasn't been able to do that anymore, which is sad. But
She's
they built a statue
really.
for yeah. So you've got the Superman statue there, but now you have the Lois Lane statue there too. It's pretty cool.
See, one other thing that annoyed me about this film was it may seem a little bit nitpicking, but I don't like the photography. It's really dark, brownish colors, muddy contrast. It it tries in some scenes when you got when Superman lands on New Krypton and approaches Lex, they've shot it really well, but it's kind of like a film they've fiddled with too much in post, and what you've got is a sort of very sort of I don't know, not very appealing film to look at.
Like, is showing us the boat right there is supposed to be a really cool foreshadowing
I
moment?
think so. I think it's Brian Singer, trying
Oh,
to be smart.
okay.
But I quite like, the set design for Smallville's very cool. I like that. It's got, they were referencing Ben Hubbard, which was just references once in the first film.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Pure fan service that is.
Is she playing Scrabble by herself?
Well, it was a deleted scene when she's with Ben Hubbard playing playing.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
forgot about
So
that.
there's some
Well,
nice
I haven't
deleted
watched
scenes
it.
I've just trimmed out and think, why
I
they
haven't
leave
watched
that
the
in?
deleted scenes in a long time. Well, and that baffles me too, because a lot of the things, and we see this in so many movies. The first X-Men had this, where you have all these deleted scenes where you're like, okay, well, that helps the movie feel a great deal more cohesive. That seems necessary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, Amazing Spider-Man had that in spades. And you go to this, and you have all these scenes where you're like, why is that lasting? Why is this sequence lasting this long?
Yeah, I mean the thing with this
But
film.
then they took all this stuff out. Like we didn't need that many. We didn't need that long in a freaking helicopter at the end.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. See, with Superman's,
We'll see if I feel the same way when we get to it. But I've always thought that scene was way too long.
I think when Superman lands back on Earth, there the way it's been shot is really well done.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
there's great moments in this film where there's Bryan Singer knows what he's doing, and he's carefully choosing his shots. But then later on, it comes a bit sloppy, and he doesn't know. I don't think Bryan Singer is very good at action, even though he does a lot of films with action-orientated scenes. But I don't think he's very good at staging them. With Superman Returns, it's very much the same, but we'll get to the bit where he saves the plane. But that's probably the most impressive thing about this film.
Yeah, you're right.
About you,
I just feel like this is a movie with a whole lot of production value and without the story to back it up.
it is. Why I said in my review of the film, it's a 90-minute movie stretched over 2.5 hours.
What it really is a love letter to the Donner films and not much else. And I mean, like, Singer unabashedly called it that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he asked for Rich Donald's approval. Richard Donald was like, "Great," and I love the idea, and everyone was behind him because Brian Singer at that point, he X-Men films are very popular. The studios trusted him, and I think that they gave him too much trust on this film.
Well, that's the thing is, I think a lot of people try. I think I trusted him.
Well, yeah, same here because you kind of felt okay, right? X-Men 2 was great,
Yeah, it's one of my favorite superhero movies ever.
and he loves Superman the movie, and everyone was like, great, we've got a director, who loves Superman the movie, and he wants to pay respect to that, which is great. Fans want to hear that stuff, but what's happened is he hasn't thought carefully enough about the story, what he wanted. I mean, the writers he got involved, I don't think they were experienced enough and to know about Superman, and they was kind of like all their experience of Superman was just watching the first movie. They hadn't done enough research or hadn't, to sort of expand upon this universe.
Well, the thing you got to keep in mind is that fans are looking at a couple of things. You've got fans are going to be, or at least some of them, happy to hear. Okay, you're gonna, the Donner films. You're gonna kind of have that feel a little bit.
Yeah.
But fans also want to hear you're going to bring more comic book to it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they haven't done that.
Or at least a lot of them. There's so many characters we've never gone to, and just because you're going to the Donner movies doesn't mean that you are relegated to Lex Luthor or General Zod.
Exactly. And when they announced this film and Lex Luthor was in it, I was like, ugh, not again, But it was kind of, I wanted Brainiac. I want to see Brainiac in the film. I want to see some, some epic battles. We kind of got that in Man of Steel. You got kind of got what you wanted in a way, but I want to see more villains. We keep getting Lex or Zod,
Or Zod, yeah.
But hey, we got Nuclear Man. We've got something original.
Yeah, who's another clone made by Lex Luthor, which happens all the time in the comic books.
See, Parker Posey, she's basically playing, obviously, Miss Tessmacher from the first film because all her dialogue is recycled.
Yeah, that drives me crazy.
It is.
She's the same character.
I thought she could have made a better. I think she could have made a better Lois Lane. I thought.
Oh, interesting.
Because she's more flamboyant as well. She's more. I know she seems a lot more sexy sort of character, and I know Kate Bosworth is far too young, and I think.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And I think, and I like things about Ralph, but I feel like Ralph looked too young.
He did, yeah. I mean, if you look at Brandon Routh now, he looks more like Superman, even more. You know,
Yeah, you
you
wish.
think, oh, it'd be awesome if you did it now. But
Yeah, or if he had at least been that age at the time.
yeah,
Because the difficulty with it is you're gonna make a movie that is called Superman Returns. It's clearly supposed to be a sequel to something.
yeah,
I mean, the difficulty with it is it feels like it's sort of kind of its own universe, but sort of in the Donner
yeah.
thing. I find that incredibly awkward, and we'll talk about that as we get to scenes that encapsulate that. But what's really tough about it to me is it's called Superman Returns and it's an established Superman. He's been gone for 5 years. He comes back. This guy shouldn't look younger than the first time he showed up.
I know.
It doesn't make any
It doesn't.
sense.
No, it
You,
doesn't.
you want a 35-year-old looking Superman.
It's I mean, Brandon Routh was the same age, or maybe actually Chris Reeve might have been slightly younger when we did Superman the movie, but Chris Reeve looked a bit older. Yeah, at
I also
an
think
age.
Christopher Reeve has that kind of timeless, ageless look.
He does, yeah, because he looked the same for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And
I think he's a lot like Leonard Nimoy in that way, where he has his own distinctive look, and
yeah,
so there's about 30 years in his life where until until these guys just get older. I mean,
yeah.
until they get to their 50s or
It's like
whatever.
Sean Connery. Sean Connery looked the same for 20 years as a kid.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
actually. Yeah,
exactly. And I think a lot of it is that just kind of young chiseled look that they just keep forever. But also, it's kind of, I mean, like you look at I use the example of Nimoy. You look at him back when he was playing Spock, and he was in his early 20s, and you couldn't tell. He could have been 30, he could have been 40. And I think Reeve kind of had that. Brandon Routh had a baby face, man.
yeah, he did look like he was 21 years old, but they went for someone who looked like Christopher Reeve. That was a thing. Actually, in this Fortress of Solitude bit, right? I didn't
Yeah.
like how they had this sort of the crystals grew. I mean, and it also references like he'd been there before, so it's kind of like, okay, this is a sequel to Superman 2, but
Yeah.
there's other rules in the film where it doesn't feel like it's a sequel. So I think the audiences were confused. Was it a sequel? Was it a prequel to something else, or was it a remake? It it doesn't feel like its own. It doesn't have its own voice. This film. It doesn't stand on its own. It doesn't know what.
No, and it's not consistent enough with the other stuff.
No.
And the thing you have to keep in mind too is because everything is updated, and I'm not saying they should have. Excuse me. I'm not saying they should have made a period piece, but because everything is updated,
Yeah.
you have to try to remember the other films as if they happened in the 2000s.
Well, yeah. Do it. I'll just do it. They shouldn't even call it Superman Returns. Just call it Superman 5. Boom. Straight into it. You know what it is. It's Superman 5. No one's going to be confused. And then I would have had to start have the opening sequence just referencing the other films, but in sort of like images and stuff like that. So no,
Do you think this, Oliver? Do you think this is a case of trying too hard to be accessible?
I think so. Yeah, it's trying to
I
it's trying to
think
please
that's
too many people, but doesn't really
please
have
anybody.
its own voice.
Yeah.
But even the Fortress of Solitude, even with all the money they spent, it just looks crap in comparison to the original Superman the movie. They've got the huge sets, it all looks beautifully white and stuff. This looks very dark and pale and doesn't seem to have any life.
I feel like that happens a lot now, where you'll hear a movie costs $150,000 to make, $200,000, and then you watch it and you can't tell where the money went.
Well, that's what this film I feel felt like, because this was the most expensive film ever made when it came out.
Yeah, I don't understand
And I
that.
was thinking, where did the money go? Because there's so many instances in this film where you've got Superman whizzing past camera. You can't even see him. I'm like, where's the money gone? If I was an executive, I'll be sitting there going, okay, you spent 50 plus on special effects, 50 million plus on special effects. Where is it on screen? In some of these shots, you've got some shots look fantastic. You can see where the money is. I mean, the whole Smallville set looks great. They spent months growing all these,
Right.
all the plantation stuff like that. In Australia, I think it was, and it looks exactly like it did in the first movie. And obviously the photography here looks great, but majority of the film it looks very bland and very dark. But they managed to capture what the magic of the first film, and during the small sequences. But then But then
and then ultimately it's kind of pointless.
it's this whole bit here where you've got him remembering himself as Clark wearing glasses. Well, Clark didn't wear glasses, did he? I thought.
Oh yeah,
I always thought Clark wore glasses because of his identity. He didn't wear them when
you're right. So there's no continuity.
There isn't.
Or at least
this is just ran. This bit doesn't need to be in the film at all.
No, and what is it doing for the rest of the movie? What is this? What is this doing
Yeah.
thematically? What is this doing story wise? It's there because it's obligatory, right?
Yeah.
It's like we've got to have. It's been so long since we've had Superman that we've got to do all of the big Superman movie moments. So we must have a flashback.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the only flashback in the film, isn't it? As far as I'm aware.
I think so.
It is, yeah. So this bit can be totally cut. All you can do is cut it and just have the dog approach him and he throws the ball, to go fetch it. That's it. Done. But it's just thrown in to show that he's maturing, isn't he? Now he knows how to fly and his vision is now better for some reason. But there is other bits they deleted where the young Clark finds the ship and he pulls the crystal out. But then that goes back on Superman the movie where he gets called by the green crystal and then he finds it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. There's continuity errors all over the place in relation to the first film, which is trying to homage and essentially be a sequel to.
And I've heard a lot of people say, they really like this movie and that don't think that's a problem. Will say, well, it's its own movie, and it's kind of a reboot thing, so it doesn't have to be continuous for those things.
Well, that's the thing with the film. It's confusing because it's not. It's
really
a reboot.
Confusing.
It is a sequel, but it doesn't know what it wants to be. That's quite funny.
I think this movie would probably play okay for like kids that had never seen Superman.
I think it'll bore the hell out of them. I think they'll find it really boring.
Well, I see what you mean. I guess I just mean they wouldn't be as confused by all that stuff.
I suppose so. I mean, that shot there with watching TV looks just like Christopher Reeve. There's some bits you see and think, oh my god, it looks identical. Crazy. See, I really like Martha Kent in this as well. The casting of her is really good.
Yeah, she's fine.
Wasn't she in the what film was it? Called Alfred Hitchcock, the Psycho, wasn't she?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I've not looked her up. Cool.
I mean, there's a really good casting. I really like Jimmy Olsen character. The casting they made with him. He seemed kind of like the Jimmy I kind of expected because in the TV show with Dean Cain, Jimmy looked the same age as Dean Cain. And they replaced him in the second season with some other dude. And Jimmy in the films with Christopher Reeve, he looked like Jimmy for like like Superman 1 and 2, but Superman 3, he kind of looked a bit too old, and Superman 4, it's like the same age, See, in the deleted scenes, it has him as the dog return the baseball he threw, and he puts it on the table and he spins it, and it turns into the Daily Planet, which is a great transition.
Yeah.
And with this, I mean, I appreciate the design they've gone for. It's like Art Deco design for Daily Planet, but it doesn't have that realistic feel of the first Superman movie, where they've got the hustle and bustle of the Daily Planet. It seems, everyone's on edge and everyone's like, working at top speed, but this seems far more relaxed and, doesn't have the energy of the first film.
Yeah, Roger Ebert said it was really sterile.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the production designer did a fantastic job on this film. He's updated John Barry's designs, the Fortress, whatever. You've got Smallville and things like that. He's captured the look very well, but it's kind of gone a bit too far with the Art Deco.
I just find it really hard to imagine that Clark and Superman would show back up at exactly the same time, and it wouldn't occur to anyone that they're the same person.
Yeah, you think he should have given it at least a day, or two to change to Superman, but happens on the same day. He's got to save Lois.
Yeah, and of course we still have that thing where she doesn't know.
Well, yeah,
And so that makes it even sillier.
it's kind of like, does she? 'Cause
Or does she? Yeah, I could never decide.
it's kind of like in the back of her mind, she kind of knows, but it's not. The audience isn't given any clues. You're sort of just given a slight little, is he or is he not? Does she know still? But like with Frank Langella playing Perry White, Perry White is far more relaxed, in this comparison to like,
I want that standee, by the way.
yeah.
I would totally put that in my house. But I did think it was kind of a coup to get Frank Langella.
I mean,
In fact,
you got,
as soon as I heard they were gonna use him, I was like, oh, and he's gonna get nothing to do,
he didn't really.
and he didn't really.
No, you got Frank Langella. I mean, you got the bloke who played Skeletor, the most amazing villain in the film, and like, and like, and he's kind of playing like the Perry White from the George Reeves Superman TV show. He looks
Yeah,
kind of
right.
similar, but he's a bit more
Well, of
relaxed.
course, they give us the obligatory Great Caesar's Ghost and all that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of why he's here, is just to be another reference, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
oh well, it's Superman. We gotta have Perry White in here, and we gotta have Jimmy Olsen in here, and they're not really gonna get anything interesting to do, or make us like Clark Kent or Superman more because of his supporting cast. None of that. They're just here.
I quite like this bit in a minute where Jimmy comes up behind Clark and makes him jump. Then he like cracks the pitcher. I was like, okay, wait a minute, you're quite strong, aren't you? You're Superman. What's going on?
Yeah, that always cracks me up with superpowered characters when they do things like that, and then we have to dumb down the character next to them that sees them do the thing just so that they won't know, just so that we can have them do the cool special effect or whatever. Yeah, really? Like, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could hold a picture and actually break the glass like that just by twisting the frame. I don't know. But Oliver, maybe you're stronger than me. I don't know. Maybe you could do that.
I haven't tried it yet. I might do.
Oh, okay. You want to try
I
that?
get a bit
Yeah, let's
strong.
do an experiment. Yeah.
There is some humor in the film that works. When Parker Posey comes back and like sees the other dogs eating the other one. Weren't there two of those? She's like,
See, I don't like that because it doesn't. What kind of Superman film is this? They would have never done that in the other franchise.
it's quite funny because Brian Singer always said,
I don't get it. Like, what? Where did they get those dogs?
it's like Brian Singer.
Does that happen?
I don't know.
Is that the breed of dog that does that? I mean, yeah, maybe it's sort of funny, but if you start thinking about it at all, it's really wiggy.
And that is a really cool model set of. Is it supposed to be like Metropolis? No, it's not Metropolis, is it? It's just a random train set they've built.
Yeah, and like Batman the Animated Series, we must have a blimp.
Oh yeah,
There's always a blimp.
but doesn't it? It has the Lone Superman 2, where General Zod changes the faces of the what was it? That
Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore, yeah.
Yeah,
But it
you're
has
right.
that. But it should have had to
They have
reference.
an homage to that.
It should have done that with like General Zod's face, but it doesn't have that.
You know what? I think that's where all the money went.
Oh yeah, on that massive.
It's to
Yeah,
build that
definitely.
model.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least it's not one of those things where Lex Luthor just has that model for no good reason.
No, yeah, because he's just
Like, if they
takes.
have to go somewhere where it is,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good.
He's drinking quite early, isn't he? He just got to work and he's already having a drink. Does that like ever work? I think there's like a random cameo of like Richard Branson, isn't there, in this film?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's like flying the plane. It was like one of the co-pilots, I think.
So this is another one of those things where I feel like we're just wasting a lot of time. We go on this plane and then we have all this footage of the plane's gonna fall down, and here's people talking about that happening, and then you know what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is with this film, it's the editing is done in a very traditional manner, which is good. It
Good
doesn't
point.
it doesn't try to be. I mean, the editing is done well in certain areas. The action scenes are they show you enough, so you're not being tricked or being manipulated by the edit, like some action films do, or you can't see what's going on because they've edited too quickly. Um, but but also the slow pace of the editing is also the film's downfall because it then drags out the film, and you've got these. You could have trimmed here, trimmed there, cut a bit, shorten it here, little bits of dialogue, and the film would have been more digestible to the audience and more it wouldn't be such a slog to get through, as it were.
Well, I wouldn't mind if I was really engaged by what's going on, but really the only things that are fun are things I've seen before.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the only fun bit is really saving the plane because as a kid, when you think of like what they're going to do for a new Superman film, and in my mind, I always envision a sort of idea where Superman's trying to save a huge Boeing 777, whatever, or whatever, jumbo jet, and you could have had him sort of land the plane within the city, so you got the wingspans down the streets, like I think he does it in the old Fleischer cartoons where he catches a plane and saves it. Um,
Yeah, well, and I assumed that that was part of why that was there, was that it was maybe an homage to that, because
Possibly, possibly.
I mean, like obviously the image that you always think of is Superman saving a train,
Yes, that's right.
and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had that first film, and I think the image of Superman, catching an airplane, I think is probably second only to the train.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the natural progression because he saved a helicopter in Superman the movie.
Yeah,
Next
but I'm
year,
just saying we've seen that in countless comic books too. I mean,
yeah,
he's always catching
yeah.
airplanes.
The Superman, imagery, isn't it? It's always
But like,
relevant.
did we need again? Where did the money go? Like, did we really need the control tower stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you could have.
Need all this?
It's certain parts where they've had so much money, they've just gone crazy with it and over
Yeah,
designed certain things. But um,
I mean, I think it's just an attempt at building scope,
yeah,
but just don't. I don't think we need it. Where it's saying, okay, this is like a regular world that you're looking at, and here's all the behind the scenes operations of things and stuff, and I think just trying to give you a sense of atmosphere and real world and stuff. But I just don't feel like we need all that because ultimately this is really just about Superman seeing Lois again for the first time in 5 years.
yeah, that's what it boils down
That's all
to,
it's
isn't it?
really about. Yeah, yeah. It just boils down to them meeting again and us getting to see Superman do something cool.
Oh yeah, I mean you have to have Superman doing something cool because the audiences, the general public, want to see Superman do what he does best.
But you want some kind of emotional resonance behind
Oh, of
that.
course, there's no
Had
emotional
that with
resonance
that.
behind the
I think you
exercise.
had that in the helicopter catch.
You
I mean, there
did,
was a
you
lot
did.
going on in that scene than just him catching a helicopter. Because that was, if memory serves, kind of his debut to the world, right?
Oh, right.
And here, it's, I mean, okay, it's his re-debut to the world.
Yeah,
I guess there's that. I guess he thinks he's doing the helicopter catch thing again,
yeah,
but I just don't feel like there's enough, weight behind it. And I think the first time I saw it, I assumed there was, because I figured that it was going to build and there'd be, it would thematically fit in and things would build from it later. But then when things got super awkward, watching him and Lois talking later, it just didn't do anything for
no,
me.
no, because there isn't really much emotional weight to the saving the plane sequence, as you were saying, in regards to the helicopter sequence in the first one. Because once Superman catches Lois and he's got the helicopter in the other hand, there's the emotional weight is there, and it's like as the audience you're with the whole film. You're inspired by it all. You're in awe. But with this, it's kind of like a stale copy of it. Um, as you're saying, when Lois and Superman are talking on later on, there's nothing there. It's just two actors just reading out some lines.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it.
There's no chemistry. That's the thing. There's no chemistry between Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth.
No, I don't think so. And seeing all the models falling down and stuff like it's like you're kind of looking at a real city. That's an homage not just to some of the things we were talking about earlier, but also to all the model work that they did in the first couple movies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this.
And they don't do models anymore. But and I guess for the within the framework of the movie, it's supposed to say here's what Lex Luthor might ultimately be capable of on a big grand scale. I guess is why that's there.
Possibly, yeah. I think you're right. There's a bit more, it's, as you were saying earlier about the, seeing a model of the boat, what's going to happen later. There's always.
But with that one, if we actually saw that payoff, where I mean, I'm not saying that I needed to see all of Metropolis get totally, in an earthquake like Batman No Man's Land,
Yeah.
but if that paid off in some way, if like later you saw some of the same kinds of things happening, sort of like the crumbling of the earth that you were seeing at the end of Superman 1, I mean, maybe that would be a little bit cooler. As it is, it looks neat, but I'm still not real sure why it's there. I don't know, man. I feel that way with so much stuff in this movie where I'm like, okay, in and of itself it looks kind of neat, but why is it there?
Oh yeah. There's no reasoning behind some of those scenes. It's just there for the sake of being there. Um, when we get to the scene where Krypton, sorry, Metropolis is attacked by the sort of or by the earthquake. I think the whole sequence is so uninspired and sort of very poorly directed. But it sort of shows Bryan Singer's not really the one to go for when it comes to action. I mean, if you got an action director who could tell a good story, done loads of, different variety of TV work, a bit like Richard Donner. He'd done so much TV work before Superman. He knew what to do when it come to doing action, you know, romance, things like that. He'd done every genre. Bryan Singer hadn't really done that, and he's trying to. With Superman, you've got so many different styles you can throw into it and make its own thing, but he hasn't.
Maybe the reason I feel so detached
Mm,
a lot of the time, using this sequence we're watching as an example, is that it's from so many different perspectives. It's not from anybody's perspective.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're just jumping. We're not even jumping into different people's heads. We're just kind of jumping around the world. And I guess I'm supposed to care because airplanes are about to drop out of the sky. But that's it. Like I think that I guess the perspective is the the populace.
Yeah.
Like just people watching the news. Oh no, this catastrophe is about to happen. But it's not from a human place. I mean, like we keep seeing Lois Lane, but we haven't established her yet in this world. And she doesn't seem anything like the Lois Lane I knew from the other movies. So I'm detached. I don't know this character yet. I don't have any reason to really care that much about her yet.
Oh yeah,
And
exactly.
so
When the film progresses, as an audience member, you don't find yourself caring about her at all anyway.
and it's not like, and I'm not saying they had to do this, but it's not like, Lois got herself in some like, terrifying situation because she was, being too much of a risk taker or something. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a bunch of other people on that plane. She just boarded an airplane. I mean, yeah, I get that it's an experimental thing, but I'm just saying like there's not anything inherently that makes me go, oh, instantly this is an interesting character. I'm supposed to care because I've heard of Lois Lane before, and I think that's a trap we fall into a lot with superhero movies these days. Is that the stories forget that they have to make you like people. You can't just go, I've heard of these people before, so I care what happens to them.
Oh
You know,
yes,
that's
yes,
like
that's right.
that's like 5-year-old logic, right?
Oh, of course, of
where,
course.
where
Well, it just goes with lazy storytelling. That's as simple as
that's
that.
what I think. If 5-year-old logic is I love Batman because he's Batman.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Oh look, it's Superman on screen. Yay, he's got to go save Lois because that's what Superman does. Yeah, but in an audience of thinking people needs more than that. We don't want to be and the whole movie I feel very very detached from these characters.
Mm. But it's kind of like when I reviewed the film. I mean, some people find they enjoy the movie more as they watch it, and some, like me, actually, when I watched it the first time, so I previewed it at the cinema. I walked out. I couldn't decide if I liked it or not.
Yeah.
I had to watch it again, and I was like, it's frustrating because it's some bits in there I really like, and it's fan service, but it also
Yeah.
I didn't feel attached to it at all, as you were saying. Like being an audience member and not feeling there's no attachment for you. There's no involvement as an audience member.
Yeah, these just all feel like kind of cardboard cutouts. They're all gonna die on an airplane. I don't care.
And what I didn't like when Superman appears, I think the new Superman's outfit really stinks. It doesn't work at all.
I don't like it either, and you and I are somewhat in the minority. I think a lot of people really dug it.
Um, well, some of my friends were like the costume looks very muted. They didn't like it. It basically looked like the Superman 3 colors. You know what I mean? When he's like evil Superman.
See,
Um,
yeah, I felt that way too. The color scheme was kind of strange to me, and I don't mean to be a purist. I don't mean
yeah,
it had to look just like the Chris Reeve suit. I've never seen that color scheme with Superman before, and I just don't think it really works. The blue is too light.
yeah.
It didn't work for me, and I am notorious for this now, but I'm going to say it. I guess this is obligatory. People are going to expect me to say this. I'm going to say it. I don't like the S on the belt.
No,
I'm sorry, I
no.
just don't like
I
it.
don't like the S. The S is too small on the suit. Um, but also like the boots as well. I mean, there's too much. There's too many references to his boots. They keep photographing his boots all the time. I don't want to see his boots. For God's sake.
I never noticed that.
Because
That's hilarious.
because they're like designed by Nike. You got to put the boots in the film. We want to see them, and it's like, oh, really. But to be granted though, this whole sequence where he's chasing after the plane, it's spinning round, he catches it and he lands it. It's really amazing stuff. Not to make anyone think I don't like this stuff. The effect
Boots.
it's really well done, and the music score is fantastic for the entire plane sequence. Because John Ottman did a fantastic job. But
Oh, and let me throw that out there. I love John Ottman,
oh yeah, yeah, X
and
Men Two.
I've listened to the X2 score over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's a great score, and this is a good
I
score.
think it's one of the
Although
best. Yeah.
there is quite a bit of X2 in the score.
Is there? Oh, interesting.
Well, I'm just saying, like if you listen to them together, you're like, oh, that's that composer.
Oh,
But yeah, when he lands the plane here in the middle of the ball game, that looks fantastic.
it does. It does. Really does.
It's really cool.
And
And then and I love the bit of everybody stops for a minute and then they just freak out like that. Yeah, that's
I still wish he would have landed that plane in the middle of Metropolis. You know what I mean? So
cool. I've never caught that before. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. When the pilots are looking at each other and the computer is still saying "fly up, fly up." That's hilarious. And then you have these fun moments where they give him the Christopher Reeve line. Where
yeah, about
he has the planes are still the safest way to fly. He doesn't have the presence Christopher Reeve had.
oh no, because Christopher Reeves was a very well trained actor beforehand. He'd done tons of theatre.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not comparing Reeve with Ralph here.
Mm.
Let me make that distinction. I feel like a lot of the problem is in the writing. I think Ralph does as well as he can with this material, and I feel like where his lack of confidence comes from is in the script.
Yeah, yeah. He's not given much to say at all, is he? In the entire film.
No, and that was my biggest problem with the movie the first time I saw it too, was that he's so monosyllabic. He never says anything. I can't get in his head. I don't really know what he's about, but he seems like a scared kid in a lot of ways.
It's kind of like it's just top.
Superman, right? Like
Yeah.
like you need a guy. I mean, I'm not saying he can't be conflicted. I'm not saying he can't have any internal conflict. You need that. It's a movie about a character, and you want Superman to be somewhat humanized. Obvious, okay, entirely. He's a human with superpowers. He needs to be played that way. I get that. Um, but this guy seems all over the place to me,
It's kind of, yeah. I mean, it's like he's been.
especially when you get to the creepy stalker stuff.
It's kind of like he's been told just stand there and smile. You look like Christopher Reeve. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You know.
Yeah, do you feel like he's just not being given enough instruction?
No,
Like
I think he's been given not much direction at all.
like he doesn't have a sense of what the whole is.
Yeah, his whole motives. He's got no motives there. It doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, and then you watch the movie and you feel like it doesn't have any sense of cohesion either. It's not just Ralph; it's the
Yeah.
movie.
I mean, I've no problem with Ralph. I mean, I think he got given a bad deal. Because Bryan Singer had given him some of the blame why the film didn't work. Because I don't.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's kind of because Bryan Singer came up with a load of excuses as to why this film failed. If it didn't really fail in terms of money, I mean, it cost a lot. So you got 200 million plus film budget.
Yeah.
Marketing's going to cost you 80 or 100 million, but it made 391 worldwide, and not enough profit was made for it to be successful in terms of Warner Brothers' eyes. Um,
Okay.
but with DVD sales,
So he started making excuses.
it's kind of weird. Like they reference the new suit, don't they? Why has he got why has he got a new suit or something like that? Does he still stand for truth, justice, all that stuff? It's like they didn't want to say the American way, did they?
Yeah, and I really resisted that.
So
And a lot of the reason I resist that is because we're trying to really contemporize this up. But again, I mean, I guess I'm repeating myself. We're trying to really contemporize this up, but then we still want it to be what we had before. I'm not sure you can totally have your cake and eat it too.
oh yeah, I mean, didn't like when Spider-Man 3 they had that shot where he runs past the American flag, and people were like in uproar, going, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Really? Come on! It's Spider-Man. He's in like New York, And it's kind of
Yeah.
like if you had Superman flying with the American flag like it does in Superman 2, people might think it's quite corny if he did it again. Um,
Well, and again, we're trying to please everybody. You got the people that want Superman to be really patriotic, and then you have the people who are kind of, who don't feel that way, and so they want to be able to enjoy Superman without feeling like they have the whole, the American ideal thrown in their face.
yeah,
And how about Superman just stands for what he stands for, and then we watch the movie and we like him or we don't like him. The movie doesn't have to be preachy about American values or whatever we're talking about.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
of course.
He's a character, and he has his views, and you're not going to necessarily agree with his views, but you might like him for some other reason. You know what I mean?
Of
So like, just
course.
let him be what he's gonna be. I feel like we're just trying to make everybody happy, and that's never a good idea.
Because I never thought. I mean, in terms of Superman 4, you've got the idea of being, politically preachy in a way.
Yeah,
But you've got with the other films, it was never pushed in your face, this sort of
I didn't think so
ideals.
either.
It's
No.
not, I'm not saying this one does at all. This one doesn't do that, but it shies away from what Superman stands for in terms of some other people's eyes. Um,
Or at the very least, it just draws too much attention to it.
yeah, if, you just don't say it, don't include
Just
it.
don't say it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's like we have to have all of those fan servicey things in there because that's what makes a movie like this enjoyable for people. And no, it's a good solid story about a character that you're invested in that makes people want. I mean, that is always true.
actually, with this film, I quite liked Richard White. Um, what's the actor who plays his name? The guy who played Cyclops. Um,
Yeah, I know who it
oh,
is, and
sorry,
it's
I
not
can't
coming to me right
remember his
now.
name now. But yeah, but I thought he was a really good character because he's basically Superman but without the powers. He could fly a plane. He was reliable to
Oh, I could
Lois.
see that.
It was kind of like it was like another version. She fell for another guy who kind of was a bit like Superman but didn't have any powers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But what drives me bonkers about this film is Kate Bosworth and her colossal forehead. It's like they've got this horrible, you've got a horrible wig slapped on her head, and it just looks dreadful. She doesn't suit the wig. It doesn't suit her at all. It just puts me off the entire film. It just seemed like really sloppy casting when it came to Kate Bosworth. It's like she'd done like a couple other films, and that was it. And there's so many other actresses who are out there who could have done a far better job.
Oh, James Marston, by the way. I don't know
Oh,
who
that
I
was
was
it. Yeah,
my
yeah.
head
Oh
was, but
God,
I never noticed that with her, and now that you said it, I'll never be able to not look
yeah.
at that. Thanks.
Forehead lady.
Forehead lady.
I mean, Kevin Spacey, it was, obviously tipped to be Lex Luthor for years, wasn't he? I think it was even attached to Tim Burton's Superman film. So he has always been the studio's number one choice for Lex Luthor, and you finally get him, and he does a
And
great.
he's playing like the most inappropriate version for his acting set,
I
right?
know, I know. It's like I would happily see him as Lex Luthor again. If he was in the next Superman film, I'll be so happy. But it's
Yeah, me too.
but it's we won't get that ever again. because we've all, we all know with films when they're doing a fresh take, you won't see enough.
Usually not going to see the same actor play
Yeah.
unless it's Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, God, yeah.
I don't understand that. But yeah, at least we got House of Cards though, because House of Cards is basically if Lex Luthor was from the South and trying to become
Oh
president,
yeah, true. Yeah.
going through the back door. So we at least have that. That's nice.
It's also with this scene when with Clark following Lois out the building and he gets caught in the revolving doors again. It's kind of like okay, it's doing like Superman the movie. Um, but what do you think about Brandon Routh's take on Clark Kent? Do you think he does a good job with it?
Um, it's okay. I don't feel like there's enough of a difference between what he's doing and his Superman.
Okay. I mean, I think he gets the mannerisms quite right. I mean, he's as I said, he's doing the best with what he is given, and he hasn't been
But
given.
I feel like here's the problem: when you have an awkward Superman,
Yeah.
it's not hard to play an awkward Clark Kent.
Oh no, no, it's true.
That's all I'm saying. Like, okay, maybe he is mimicking some of Ralph's or some of Reeves' mannerisms, and that's fun or whatever. But like, ultimately, this movie is just like Superman's greatest hits.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
slapping together all the fun stuff. I mean, like, people have said that a lot about J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. I feel like you have that a lot here, except that that movie was at least entertaining.
Yes, yes.
This thing, I'm looking at an awkward Clark Kent trying to be a less awkward Superman.
It's yeah, as you're saying. I mean, his version of Superman has no confidence really. He should be, on.
Although,
But they're playing up the idea of him being depressed, though, aren't they?
yeah,
And not sure what world he's in. He feels alienated when once before he didn't. Because he'd been there for 30 plus years.
I've never thought about this before, and I don't. Oh, quick plug for Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah.
I'll say something. I've never thought of this before, and I don't think this was intentional, but it's amusing. There is the whole thing of if you flew off in space and you were completely isolated and by yourself for 5 years and you had no one to talk to, you'd probably be a little bit antisocial and detached when you got
Oh yeah,
back.
lady, you would be a bit weird.
I guess there's that. I've never really thought of that, but I don't know if that's intentional.
Possibly. I mean, you would. I mean, Superman's come back to a place where Lois is left, gone, and is with someone else. He obviously thinks she's having a child with that guy, and he doesn't know where to fit in. But they've played up the idea. But for a new Superman film, the audience want to come in and feel happy. They want to come out feeling satisfied that Superman is back. But what we've got is a very depressing return, and obviously he's spying on Lois, which I don't. A lot of people had a big issue with this scenario where he's spying on her. But I suppose Superman, in a way, because he's a bit depressed and stuff, he probably needs to sort of double check things out, maybe. But you don't really need to see this on film.
No, I don't think so either. And you still have the kind of thing of I guess we're just supposed to care because they're supposed to be together.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
it's
we talked over something I really wanted to bring up,
sure.
and I'll point this out in some other places. We've been past it, but I'll mention it. When we were watching him fly over the city just now, I guess a lot of the theme of this commentary is where did the money go?
Yeah.
He's flying across the camera, and it's a gorgeous image until you really look at it, and then you realize that you're looking at a completely CGI Superman.
Yes, the biggest.
And it's really bad at the end, and we'll talk about
Oh,
it.
of
But I
course.
never,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even notice that they did it earlier than that. I mean, we see him when we see him kind of hover up above the house. That looks good because that's actually him on wires. But when we see him coming across in side profile, it's entirely CG. It looks like a video game cutscene.
Oh, yeah.
Where did the money go? What are
It's
we doing?
it's because Brian Singer had said, I think someone on the production team said, "Oh, we're going to be using loads of in-camera wire stuff. You're going to see none of this, over-the-top CGI." But they completely went back on their word. When
Yeah,
you,
and it's not well integrated.
it's not because
You know, I,
earlier
I,
on when
I
he's saving the plane, and he's literally a close-up of him pushing the plane into outer space, right?
yeah,
And it's still CGI. It's like, why didn't you shoot that in camera? It's so much easier.
yeah. CGI is there to fill in the blank, or at least this is what I think it should mostly be used for. It's there to fill in the stuff that you simply can't do practically. If you can do it practically, you want to.
Yeah.
And at least if you have this kind of a budget, okay? When money, I mean, obviously money is still an object, but when you have this big of a budget,
Yeah.
and comparatively to other things, money is kind of no object. If you can do it practically, do it practically. I mean, I guess it's unfair to compare this to like the Nolan Batman films, but if you look at those movies, it's but I'm gonna do it anyway. If you look at those movies, they use CG so sparingly that you can't tell when they're using it.
Oh,
Most
yeah,
of the
because Christopher Nolan doesn't like CGI.
he doesn't like CG.
Uh,
Yeah, and I really respect him for that. You go to this, and we're cutting corners with it. You should not be cutting corners in a movie that's this expensive.
I know. It's like you end up shooting yourself in the foot. If you're going to shoot a close up of Superman flying towards camera, flying past camera, do it in camera. Shoot it live because
Yeah,
you
you
know.
use the CG when he's really far away, and you wouldn't be able to tell anyway. Or
Yeah,
again, when you're doing things like when toward the end, when we have the fun stuff of him like flying through the sewers and things like that. Some of that stuff you have to do in CG. But like with what we're looking right now with this slow mo with the cape coming back behind him and stuff,
yeah,
dude, I really resist this stuff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but then he goes in for a close up in live action. So there's some shots where it
So at
works,
least yeah,
some it
that's
doesn't.
good.
It doesn't. But it's the big sequences where you've got Superman clearly in frame. It's CGI and it's doesn't look real. Simple as that. It looks too soft.
So we talked for a good 4 minutes there, watching all that. What exactly was all that for? What were we? What story was being told there? I guess Superman is conflicted.
Well, he's doing something actually which is probably quite unique in a way because he's above the earth,
Yeah,
listening to everyone, and then he pinpoints his hearing onto this
yeah, I
one
like that as an
this
image. That's
one
cool.
this one crime, Um, but it's a very bland sort of sequence. It's just another example to show some CGI. I mean,
And like, why did he pick? Was he just picking one? Like, why did he pick this crime?
yeah, I know it's very just gets a chain gun, shoots a few cars, and he gets shot in the eyeball. But it's kind of interesting way to sort of see how powerful Superman is.
Yeah, and it's like, guys, we know how powerful he is. We like not only are most audiences going to already know, that Superman is a powerful guy. And I guess I said earlier, you have to establish things about your characters even if we know them. I mean, human stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like let him display his powers in scenes that matter to the story. We don't need to come up with random sequences to show him display his powers. Especially if this is supposed to sort of be a sequel thing.
Yeah, yeah, you've already seen essentially all this before in a
Yeah,
way.
and also inside of the same movie that you're watching, you've already seen him display his powers. I guess we just haven't displayed all of them yet.
It's kind of like you've got this scene where you need to throw in a sequence where he's doing Superman stuff, but you're only getting one bit where which is actually a whole scene, but every other scene after this is essentially a montage of him going around the world, putting out fires, saving someone from a building. But it's all like in other countries, isn't it? But I'd rather see that in full live action, not be like a news report.
Yeah, that's a good point. But also, when you get a big elaborate sequence like this, why can't we just get the Lex Luthor plot moving and have this have something to do with the story we're supposed to be watching?
Oh yeah, I mean that this could have been cut from the movie, because the next bit is where
If you cut this, you'd never miss it.
well, no,
Except you'd be like, well, where was that thing from the trailer where the thing hit his eyeball?
yeah, 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 it's the best bit. Where's it gone?
Actually, it was the thing everybody was making fun of at the time.
But it's another reference to Superman the movie where they find a meteorite and its location was Addis Ababa, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite interesting. But yeah, as I
Oh,
say,
I didn't
with the
notice that.
with the
Good point.
photography, as I say, all the blues look icy cold. I just don't like that about this film. It's like it's all set at winter or something like that.
Yeah, they look like Easter egg colors.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I mean, the guy photographed X-Men 2. He worked with Bryan Singer a lot. X-Men 2 looks really good with its photography. This film used a new Panavision Genesis cameras, new
Oh yeah.
new age of digital photography. Um, but the film doesn't look that good. I mean, if you look at Predators, that was shot on Genesis camera, and Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, they look great. The films look really good. But this, no, it just doesn't do the film justice. They could have shot it. With, we're talking about money and the film having such a huge budget. Bryan Singer was considering shooting the whole film on 70 millimeter. Now that is like excessive. It's 70 millimeter Superman film. That'd be great. But now he's gone for Genesis, Panavision cameras. So he also had an over bloated budget, basically.
I just wish that he had had the vision to back it up.
I mean, I've a few friends, who are professional filmmakers, and they hate Bryan Singer. They think he's a hack. It's
Really?
yeah. I mean, a number of his films recently haven't done as well as they should do. I don't. I mean, his success really rides on The Usual Suspects, and X-Men 1. It's a good film, but kind of feels like a TV movie in a way, where X-Men 2 is really sort of delivered. But then that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, you've got Samaritan.
Yeah, and then he had a decade of people not liking his movies.
Oh yeah, exactly. It has not. I mean, was it Jack and the Giant Peach, whatever it is, or Beanstalk, with that film?
Jack the Giant
Yeah,
Slayer.
that didn't do very well.
Jack and the Giant Peach Slayer Beanstalk.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that children's book.
But that didn't do particularly well. So if X-Men
more of the whole by the way, we've got the homage there to Action Comics #1.
That's right.
And you got to do that.
And
it looks good though.
And
that's cool.
That is cool. But the kid takes a photograph on a really naff camera phone, and then you see later on the photographs are amazing. I'm like, how the hell?
You're like, how did he do that?
It's like a 1 megapixel camera.
It wasn't even a smartphone.
Exactly.
And even a smartphone couldn't have taken a picture like that.
Yeah, exactly. And this was 7 years ago. No way.
Yeah. That's hilarious. More of the whole kind of Superman's greatest hits thing. You got to have like Lex Luthor in disguise.
Oh, of course. He's wearing.
It
was the worst disguise. It's the worst disguise ever, isn't it?
Yeah, but he looks funny.
Should have given like a really massive beard or something like that. Like big silly glasses.
I think what makes it so tough for me to deal with the hokey Lex Luthor stuff in this is that he doesn't even have anything like the same personality as the previous version, right?
Oh no,
like he's doing all that kind of stuff, but he has the very kind of no nonsense dry wit of the comic book version. He's not the same character, and so his sensibilities don't feel like they would line up with the stuff that the other version was doing.
Well, no, he doesn't seem as funny or as charming as Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor.
Gene Hackman, yeah.
I mean, this scene here when he flies down.
Oh, did you see the date there? 1978. Yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the next scene where he sort of flies down with Parker Posey. I mean, as you go back to wire work, I mean, it's such a bland shot, and you see him take off in the worst sort of how it's been blocked out. It just looks so bland. But when you watch, the previous Superman films, when you saw Christopher Reeve take off, it was a big deal. A big live action shot. It will fly off camera. It will be in frame. But then in this film, it's very much played down, the flying. I mean, it's the idea. I mean, we've been seeing people fly on camera for years, haven't we? Like in the Matrix films, when you got Neo flying around, loads of superhero films. But there isn't really a great sense of you're believing what you're seeing. There's none of that sense anymore. You just it's CGI. There's no. I wish they'd go back to sort of trying to create a sort of more realistic attempt at flying.
Or again, all kinds of things, right? with CG, because I feel like I feel like a lot of people have just gotten used to, okay, it doesn't look real, but
I'll accept it.
It's either this or nothing, and it's not that or nothing.
Yeah.
Is the thing. There's a lot of things that you can make look fantastic if you just get inventive with it. And so it's sad when you have movies, years and years before we had CG that hold up better than a lot of CG stuff does now, because it's just a crutch a lot of the time.
That's right. That's right.
Now, to be fair, I mean, there's two sides of this. You'll also get really, inexpensive movies that want to do certain things that they couldn't do practically, so they need CG, and sometimes you can forgive that if the movie's really good.
Of
But
course.
then I have such an appreciation for minimalism.
Well, I think when people have less money, they end up being more creative, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
With it's like look at the Star Wars prequels. You got so much money. There's no creativity. Trying to do something. We've got less money. Let's try and make this look real as possible. We've got the CGI. We'll CGI it. It'll CG everything. And this is what's happened with Superman Returns. There's some moments where there's no creativity to it. It's just they've just ticked all the boxes what they need done. Um, and it's a shame, really. I mean, if they had a tighter budget, they would have been, I think, a little bit more creative with their visuals.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, when you look at a movie like Troll Hunter,
Oh yeah, that's
it's made on like a shoestring budget and it looks amazing for what it
oh
is.
definitely.
I mean, it's got CG and sometimes you can tell that it is,
Oh
but I
yeah,
mean
of course,
like
yeah.
but I mean it looks at it and then you look at something like this and you're like, you guys have no excuse.
Exactly, yeah. Well, actually, on my review, someone did actually post one in the comments on YouTube who worked on the film, who worked on the
Oh, really?
on the effects, and they agreed with me in some things where Superman was whizzing past camera, you could barely see him. They said they spent a lot of time trying to get the cape right when it's like when he's flying. I think the cape looks good when it's the CGI cape. It's one of the. They said it was very difficult to get capes right on in CG form, especially back then. I think in Man of Steel they've got it down to a T now, trying to make the cape look good.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I thought the cape was really bad in this film. Not the
Yeah,
CG, but it looks like a giant anorak cape he's wearing. I didn't like it. And where's the yellow S on the back? What happened to that? It's weird.
well, like Perry said, he's got a new outfit.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know why, but he does. Is there? Am I forgetting something? Is there actually an explanation for it? Does Perry just say that?
he just says that. There's no explanation.
See, that's what. See, don't draw attention to stuff like that if you're not going to tell us.
Yeah.
Don't be like, where did he get that suit? And then we're still supposed to not care. Okay. I mean, there could be an explanation,
if
but
if there's a sort of like a random scene at the beginning, before he gets on the ship to go back to Krypton,
yeah,
he had
exactly.
the different suits in the yeah.
But the point I'm making is you wouldn't even have to draw any attention to the fact the suit's different at all. Because I mean, like, as much as I don't like it, it's close enough that you could pretend like that's the one he was always wearing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Just like we're supposed to pretend like that, like the Lex Luthor we're looking at is the same one we always had before. I mean, like, just pretend like it's the same suit. Why draw attention to it?
Because a lot of times people need to have things spelled out to them. All the filmmakers have to pander to a made-up audience of like dummies. They have to sort of satisfy. But people go in, they're not stupid. Most people are generally smart and know what's changed and don't need to be. I need to have things explained to them. But some people do.
So here, pretty soon they're gonna Lex and Miss Tessmacher here, because that's her name. That's just what I'm gonna call her.
Yeah.
They're about to start, or have we already passed it, where they have all that dialogue from Superman 1
Oh,
that we've seen before,
oh, she
where he's
no, she says get out, doesn't she? Because what did my father
yeah,
say? That was earlier on, but then she says, oh no, no, it's later on when he's grilling Lois, isn't he? He's captured her.
yeah, and he's got all that stuff about land, and he
Yeah,
has the exact same dialogue that he had
yeah.
about that from before.
And he's got a map where someone's designed a map in each stage of Krypton getting bigger. Who would design a map to do that? He's ordered he's ordered 4 or 5 different maps with Krypton getting bigger. That's strange. Now I do like the bit now in the Daily Planet where she tells Richard about Superman's, like what his, invulnerability to kryptonite. But then they look at Clark and they think, how tall? Richard goes, how tall is he? And then obviously Clark's listening, But that's quite a good joke where he sort of looks around, sort of pretend he's not, you know.
He like hunches over.
Yeah, yeah. There's some good little gags they throw in that do work, you know.
Yeah, let me reiterate. It's not like there's nothing good in this movie. It's just a lot of it is trappings for an otherwise bloated and uninteresting movie.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just how I feel about it.
it's
I know I'm really down on this one. It's just I don't enjoy watching this. Like I've been kind of dreading this.
that's why it's taking so long for us to do this commentary.
No, that's not really the reason, but I
I
have been
can't
sort of
do it. I
dreading
can't
it.
bring myself to do it. Oh my god. It's one of those films. I don't find this film to be like it's not terrible. It's not awful in any way. It's just a very so-so kind of movie.
It's just really bland.
Yeah, I mean, this you can skim through parts of it. Get to the bits you like. Just skip to the. You got the intro, plane sequence, end credits. You've got all the bits,
But
all the
it
Superman
also
things.
feels incredibly superfluous. I mean,
Yeah.
you just I didn't need this movie.
Oh,
I
Lois still smokes as well. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. They should have had like this like giant bong fall out, or like a pipe. Oh, sorry, here's your pipe.
and then they do the obvious, his glasses fall off and he thinks about it. Like is that what Clark does every time his glasses come off? He has that look like
Yeah.
this is the time where I'm going to nope, I'm not going to reveal it.
He just like panics. Oh my god, my glasses, quick! I keep falling.
Every time.
Don't look at my
Wouldn't
face.
it have been great right here in this really low key kind of sequence where they stop everything and then the music swells really hard when his glasses fall like dun 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 dun. Oh no, I'm not gonna do this.
Now, if people listen to this commentary, right, when it comes to the sequence on the roof where Superman turns up, right, if you watch the teaser trailer, the color design is far better. It's really good. But now,
Really?
when you watch it now, it's brown and muddy and murky. But if you look at it before, it's like dark black contrast. Superman's suit's far more brighter. It just looks better, you know. But this kind of looks a bit like if you look at the background in some of the sequences on the roof, it's like the world of kind of like a little bit like Dick Tracy and a bit like Batman Forever, where you've got this sort of weird sort of
Yeah.
design. It doesn't seem to work at all. It's if I think if this film was trimmed in its length, they'd put some scenes back in they deleted to give it a bit more of a give it a bit more excitement, I suppose, and recolor timed the movie. I think to me personally, I'd find it far more enjoyable.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think there was anybody that went into this movie that was really paying attention to what was going on at the beginning and wasn't just going, oh cool, Superman? Do you think there was anybody that walked into this movie and was satisfied with the fact that Superman's gone for 5 years and we don't get to see any of where he was?
Um, Not really. I think most people will probably just accepted it. I think so. Lot.
Oh really? Okay,
I
because
think I
I
think the
remember.
average movie go well. The general public was gone. Okay, he's been gone 5 years. Okay, fine. Let's just see Superman. But for Superman
Okay.
fans, I mean, if you obviously there was the prequel comics they did to promote this film, where it gave you an explanation, as to why he'd gone and things like that. And this,
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at. I mean, I get okay. I went there and there was nothing there, so I came back. So there's not really anything to see.
yeah,
But there's I don't know, man. I mean, you kind of want to see what got him to the
oh, of course,
point of
but they,
feeling
they
like he has to leave in the first place. I mean, because they know Krypton's not there. Like, what does he think he's gonna find?
yeah, yeah.
That's what I don't get. Is like I have to see it for myself. Like, why now?
It
Why?
would have been
Like, and
interesting to see that. I mean, definitely would have seen his motives because you got to have a motive for him to go. You got to see that motive. Um, it can't just be it just be like a bit of sly talk in the background. Oh yeah, I went for 5 years, blah blah blah, and just gloss over it. It's the interesting parts in this film they gloss over, and then they focus on the stuff that's really bloody boring. You know?
yeah, yeah, I think so too. Well, and I also found myself in the first place thinking, has he always had a spaceship he could just get in and fly back in?
Well, no, 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 not at all. But it's kind of like he also uses the crystals to grow things, but but the idea about this film about the crystals, it does develop the idea more that you can grow certain things with these crystals, which is quite
Oh,
cool.
okay. All right. Well,
I like that
it's been a
idea.
little while since I've watched this, and I don't remember if that's in there. But the first time I saw this, I was like, how did he get a spaceship?
Because I got there is there's a great production design book for this film by the production team, obviously, and there's a great artwork in it where it shows you Superman in the Fortress of Solitude with this massive ship he's grown, and it would have been great to see that, you know.
You want to see that? Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it would have been nice to connect the dots I'm sure there's people listening that are like, well, obviously, Cap Lex Luthor was growing things with crystals. Yeah, I get that, but
Duh. It's like
no. I get that, but I never put two and two together. I never got the sense that Superman had figured out that he could do that himself.
yeah, well, because he spent like what so many years in the Fortress of Solitude, before he became Superman, so he must have learned something. But this
That's
whole
true, but it seems like that would be an enormous amount of power for extra like technological power
oh,
that
cool.
Jor-El would give him. Well, you could, if you wanted to, you could just supplant the entire human race with your own Kryptonian cities.
And
What's stopping
it's
you?
also Lex's idea of building his new Krypton. Do you think you want to live on New
That's my
Krypton?
point. That's Lex's idea. So I'm just saying, like, it never. So just in my defense, it never occurred to me that Superman would think to grow things.
Exactly. I think is these places, Lex has built. Have these got doors? Where's the door? How do I get in? I can't get any
Yeah,
Wi-Fi. What's
it
going
is the
on?
most impractical villain plan ever.
Yeah, yeah. I would not buy that property. I wouldn't. It looked nice, but I wouldn't live there.
Well, and of course the whole plan is supposed to be I'll make it to where that's all there is, so you're stuck living there.
But it's also silly of him to think the authorities wouldn't step in and go, "Yeah, you're under arrest, mate. Just send the SWAT team in, shoot him. He's dead, done." You know,
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have the firepower to back it up.
this whole sequence now. Obviously, they're referencing the first film where he flies with Lois again. It's like
There's just no real emotional
there's no
weight to it
emotional,
for
no
me.
emotional weight to it. Also, you can barely see them flying on screen. Literally, there's one shot, like they're flying. It's like a long shot. They're flying past a bridge.
Oh, you're right. We have so many. You know what? And I meant to mention that
Can't see him.
there are so many giant headshots in this movie. I mean, like, if you've got again, I guess we keep harping on this. If you've got this much of a budget and stuff, you don't have to shoot it like CW.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are we doing the giant over the
It's,
shoulder headshot? And that never looks good on a giant movie screen, by the
no,
way.
doesn't.
The huge head taken up. That like the. Are you with me on this? Like, that's irritating.
I don't want to see your melon head. Get off camera.
Get a better wig.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also like Let's just go back to photography. You see the first Superman film. They're flying above the clouds at night time, but it's lit really well, so you can see them in frame. You can see everything what's happening. With this, you're having to struggle to see where they are in the frame or what they're doing in a way. Unless someone's got their brightness level on the TV up to 11, I can see it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The basic concept, at the concept level, I like the idea of this movie. I like the idea of Superman's been gone for a long time, and he went for kind of a selfish reason. So when he comes back, he's got to uh, prove himself to humanity again.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it doesn't really play out that way. I mean, like, it's pretty much just Lois that doesn't believe in him anymore, and everybody else, like nobody questions him.
It's like he's just trying to impress Lois. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when he comes, it'd be kind of nice if you had. I don't mean I want to necessarily see like the whole human race turn on Superman, but I'm just saying like people asking him the tough questions. Why were you gone so long? We kind of needed you. We trusted you, and we were relying on you. And you don't really have that. He comes back, and everybody kind of just embraces him again.
Oh yeah, and it's also Superman's motives. Superman wouldn't do that out of selfish reasons. I mean, obviously, in Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2, he is portrayed as selfish in a way because he wants to be normal to be with Lois, and
Right.
obviously there is a conflict where he goes, "I'm not selfish. Why should I want to? Why can I be happy?" Um,
But he's got, and that's something I talked about.
but then he apologized and
He's
he
been through
realizes his
that
error.
character arc already.
Oh yeah,
Except
yeah, okay.
this might not really be in the same universe, so maybe he hasn't been. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it a sequel? Is it a remake? What is it? Doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, so I need to know who this person is at the start of the film before I can care about his character arc in this film.
Oh yeah.
I guess the issue is I don't really even know what the status quo is before it gets broken, right?
Oh yeah. Exactly.
Like that's part of the problem. I'm not saying there's no occasion for story. You know, the guy that's been gone for a long time and everybody's learned to live without him, and then he comes back. I mean, you know, that's a classic kind of place to go. There are lots of stories about that.
But also, if you think about it, right, we're over an hour 15 plus minutes into the film, and nothing really has majorly happened.
No,
It's
no, I feel like
it's
we just got
it's
here.
still chugging along, and it's it's overbloated, but overbloated length as well. You've got 2.5 hour movie, and they've just stretched out scene after scene. It's kind of like you're watching a work print, a rough cut, and they've just gone, "I'll just release it. The length is fine. That doesn't need to be trimmed." It's like Batman and Robin. That is a huge slog to get through. It's so over bloated and long. Um, and it's like that scenario where if 2.5 hours is fine. That's fine length. But a Superman film, Man of Steel was the same length as Superman the movie, and that's just enough. Just over 2 hours is fine for a Superman film, not 2.5 hours.
Well, look, it takes the time that it takes to tell a story. If that movie needed to be 2.5 hours because it had a story to tell in that length of time,
No, yeah, you
fine.
can probably do it. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people complained that Dark Knight was too long just because they didn't want to sit that long. And I say if it takes that long to tell the story, it takes that long to tell the story. Now we can argue about whether or not it took that long to tell the story, but my point is, with this film, they're not telling a story.
Not really. No, no. As I said, it's a very short.
Not really. I mean, there's a there's trapping. It pretends like it is, but ultimately that's not what it's about. Is what I'm saying. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's got its cookie cutter plot to hold all the fan service together and to hold all the homages and stuff. But really, it's about the homages. It's about the visuals. It's about look, yay, we finally have Superman again on screen. And I think part of the problem is it had been so long since we'd had a Superman film that was enough for people.
Oh yeah, well, some people it was, yeah. I mean, but also I still don't think the visuals stand up to what I was expecting either. But also you've got to think as well, there hasn't been a proper successful Superman film critically and financially since Superman 2.
No, and even now there hasn't been because Man of Steel completely divided
It
people.
did.
Man of Steel was like watching politics.
It is. I mean, I've never seen so
I
many
mean,
people get ups.
it divided us down the middle.
It
You know
did.
what I
It
mean?
did.
Like
I've got big Superman fans. Friends of mine who just didn't like Man of Steel, but then
I
I
think
really
it's
liked
easy.
it.
Yeah, and by the way, I completely understand issues people had with that
Of
film.
course, yeah,
But that's one of the most understandable polarizing movies I've ever seen
yeah. We did
because
when
it's not an accessible movie. It is really a taste thing. You're either gonna like that or you're
But
not.
do you
But the thing,
think do you think there's a
yeah,
50-50 on Superman Returns?
no, I don't.
Do you think it's more like 30% like it and 70% hate it? Do you think maybe?
I think so. And I think there's probably a lot of indifference with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, because I've got friends who quite like it. I also argue with them. Why do you like this? Please sum up. A good few reasons, and they do highlight some positive reasons. But some of them I share the same opinion as what they like about the film. But it's not enough for me to think. I can watch this on a regular basis. But when I summed up my review for this film, I said to myself, this film failed to make me believe Superman had returned,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. It doesn't give you that feeling.
Excuse me. Well, the thing is, if you compare this to the original, to the first Donner film, and you should because it's asking you to,
It is, yeah.
um, that movie was about Superman. He is not on screen enough in this movie.
No, it's not. I mean, it's that's what I was saying earlier when you were saying if you show it to a kid, they might enjoy it. I think kids would be very bored of
No,
this
I
film.
didn't. That's not what I
Oh,
meant when I
sorry.
said that. No. You're fine. I didn't phrase that right. What I meant was, I don't think a kid would be as confused as I am.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I
No. You're fine. I didn't phrase that right. But what I was saying, I'm just making fun of myself. What I meant was that you show this to a kid and he's not going to have all the baggage I brought to it if he didn't see the other movies. But you're right. I think you might. Now, I also think to be perfectly fair that a lot of kids might be bored watching the first Superman film.
um, Yeah, yeah.
because
I mean,
for the first half of that film,
yeah,
there ain't a guy in a suit, and that's what they're there for.
that's true.
You know.
I think the whole sort of Krypton thing they would probably enjoy that sort of destruction of it. But as you say, we get to Smallville.
When you get to Smallville and then you get to the Daily Planet stuff and everything, I don't know that they would be as
It
thrilled
probably
as
depends
I
how
was
much.
watching
It
a character study.
probably depends how much sugar the kids have been laced with, you know, to sort of sit through it.
Yes, well that's always an important component. Yeah,
Have some more coke. Shut up.
I do think it's kind of fun that Lois sees wigs and immediately knows where she is.
Yeah, I do like it.
Oh my God, it's Lex Luthor! There's only one possible evil supervillain that would wear a wig. And
I do
I
like it,
also,
though. I like his reaction. He's like,
yeah,
Slade
and
with the toothbrush.
Lois Lane.
It's so good. Man, this bit.
That gets me every
I love
time.
this bit now. No, I do like this bit, even though it is recycling the plot, you know, blah blah blah. But I do like, you know, Kevin Spacey's performance. You know, I do like it when he gets short tempered or he's, you know, he finds Lois's jokes a little bit, you know, cheeky and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this, because I know people are probably going to wonder what we think of this. Do you think that that it was fair that the huge meme happened making fun of him going wrong?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that meme was as big as Juggernaut in X3, right?
That's true. Yeah, but
Um,
it's a funny line and it works, doesn't it? You can.
yeah, I think it works. I actually kind of like it, but I have a hard time not appreciating Kevin Spacey kind of transcending the script.
Yeah, I mean when you.
Because I feel like he is, and so like any time he does something that's all him, I have a hard time not rooting for him.
Yeah.
Going, yeah, do something that pops up the energy of this movie because it's slogging,
Oh
you
yeah, because
know. So
he basically, yeah, he's the energy of this film. You know, when he's on camera, he's good.
yeah, and so he's not on screen enough. Superman's not on screen enough, and there's no energy to Superman because like you said, it feels like they say, okay, Brandon Routh, stand on your mark,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
and that's about it, you know. And if you I feel like Brandon Routh wasn't treated enough as the star of this film.
No, no.
Is that fair to say? Like you watch his performance, and obviously I wasn't there, and I don't know, but watching his performance, I just get the feeling that like when Christopher Reeve was doing it, he was like the Captain Kirk of his show,
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
his film, of his franchise, and I don't feel like Brandon Routh had that. I feel like he was another prop.
I think, you know, Christopher Reeve probably had a bigger ego, and you know, and probably had, you know, more of a. He knew the politics of you know, of the industry. You know, he knew what to do and what to say, and he could put his foot
Yeah.
on certain things. I mean, he's, you know, he.
Well, that's a good point. Maybe Brandon Routh just didn't stand up enough.
No, he probably didn't.
Who
He's probably a
knows?
bit shy, maybe, and just didn't
Yeah.
want to get in trouble. You know, and just don't blame him. You know, the amount of money that's been thrown around. Um, but
No, I'm with you. And again, I'm not blaming Routh. I'm just saying that I think that's a big distinction is how the star gets treated.
yeah. Oh, you go. It's the best bit when he gets that map and he's like, "Oh, it's a new map. I've got another one here. Oh, another map." Why did it just have like a computer screen and you pressed play and it, like, you know, had
Because
like
he's just really old
a
school.
Krypton get bigger? You know, that's be it.
Yeah, because he's on a boat, and this is the cool way to do it on a boat.
They should have like the next Superman film where Lex Luthor's in it and he's like cash for gold. This is his new. This is his.
That's
This is his
hilarious.
new plot. You know.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna make these stores, and they're gonna be on every street corner. I'm gonna put them in every like outlet mall I can. I'm like, Lex, that's already happening, pal. That plot's been done.
I do quite like the idea with Parker Posey, you know, sort of reaction to his idea. She's completely shocked and she's completely oblivious, really, to what Lex's plan is. I think she's just sort of humored him the entire time. Um, but also, she kind of like she's still good, isn't she? She's not a total like bad, you know, on the bad guy's side.
Yeah, but that's because she's just a complete carbon copy of Miss
Oh
Tessmacher.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We've
yeah.
done this
But she
already.
did that in a way because she was. But Miss Tessmacher was sort of changed by, you know, she felt sorry for Superman. You know, she obviously.
Well, and that's why I was always bugged by Superman 2, not to go back to those, but I was always a little bit bugged by Superman 2 that she's still around. It's like, why would she break Lex out of prison? He tried to kill her mother.
Yeah, yeah, that's obviously, you know, the fine point you addressed in our last commentary, I think was, and But
Oh, have I already done? I've already done my bit on this. Okay, good.
but I do like.
I'm sorry, sorry. I love it. Come on, say it, say it. You're insane. No.
but I
Wait, here comes, here comes. Wrong.
but I do love the bit when he pulls out the kryptonite though, and he and he puts it near the kid, and he starts shaking it. I love that bit. It's a really good moment when he's got the kryptonite.
Yeah, and here's the thing, okay? A lot of people really hate this notion of Superman having, this kid that he didn't know about. And I don't like it either for a couple of reasons, but I I think I could have been made to be more okay with it if they'd just gone far enough with it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They just don't do anything with it,
No,
really.
they just. Well, I think the only bit they wanted really was when Superman does the speech at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best bit, for him interacting with the kid.
Right. Well, and he's echoing, Jarrell's old
Yeah,
words, and
that that,
that's
that,
the
that, that, that doesn't bother me. I quite like that.
no, it doesn't. Not me too. Other ultimately, except that I'm still just, it feels a little lame. We have like the kid throw the piano and stuff, and then it's like, oh, and that's all he's gonna do. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because he could have easily broken out the door when they get thrown into that kitchen. But oh no, he's too afraid to do it. But
I guess I just wanted maybe more from that kid because it's like okay if that's what this movie is kind of about like let's have him and Superman have more screen time together and stuff like I feel like it's got it's got too many characters and nobody gets enough to do and I don't have enough reason to care about them. I'm not articulating myself very well on this point.
it's kind of like, as
Like
you're saying, you're given all these characters, but they're given too much screen time with nothing to do. That's why the film slogs along so slow.
well and look at this there's so much of what they do is just staring at each other.
Yeah, yeah. And but also you got that guy. Is it Carl Penn? Not Carl Penn, is it? Well, that random that comedian, that Asian guy. He's a comedian. He's in
Oh
um,
I don't know.
he's in Harold and Kumar Get the Munchies or something.
Oh
Um,
okay,
but
yeah,
he's
White Castle.
White Castle. Yeah, he has no lines in this film. Why is he in it? It's like he was either maybe he's a friend of Bryan Singer's, things like that. But he was completely wasted. It's like why have someone in the film and they're not going to talk? Who's like an actor people recognise? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I mean, if it was just a bit part or something, okay.
Oh
But
yeah, it's not.
I mean, if it was a cameo, but it's not really a cameo.
Lewis's password is like Superman. It's like, come on,
Uh,
how easy
it,
is that?
well, it could be worse. It could be Batman and Robin. That is my favorite complaint about Batman and Robin. That Alfred protected the secret of Batman with a three-letter password. A three-letter password. Superman, really. And of course, it's supposed to be clever because it's like she pretends like she doesn't like him anymore, but she still thinks about him all the time and stuff. Yeah, but it's so surface.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Seriously, I think that guy, like the bad guy, is going to play the piano with the kid. When I first saw it, he looked like the guy who played Nuclear Man 1, like Clive Mantle, who got cut from the film.
Yeah,
It looks just like
yeah.
him, I thought. I was like, oh my god. No, but it's not.
This is one of those scenes where I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna go somewhere neat with this, and then I just didn't really, I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah. He plays the piano and then he like just bangs her over the head with some like ornament or something. But there was like rumors floating around when before the film came out that Bryan Singer had a bit of a nervous breakdown making it. Like he had a bit of a
Oh,
had a
really?
bit of a panic attack when sort of with the final film. I think maybe he thought like, okay, I don't think the film works. I'm in a bit of trouble here. But think about it, it's the only film he's done where he's not done a commentary for it.
Yeah.
He's not spoken about it, you know, and he's just maybe sort of come up with some sort of a number of excuses. And his excuses change over time, like every couple.
That's the thing. I think Bryan Singer is a really smart guy, and I don't think he's in denial about it. I think he's got to know that this just really didn't work at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think he could return to it and re-edit it and put stuff back in to do a new cut of the film and try and Make it
But
work.
but but let me ask you the honest question. That's the thing that ultimately I care the most about. Did the man have a story to tell?
Um, well, it's an interesting short story, put it that way, and it's not a feature length story. I think the idea of Superman disappearing and then coming back and the world changing is a very interesting idea, but it wasn't told
Yeah, but they didn't do anything
with
with that idea.
exactly. He's got a good idea that hasn't translated well to film.
You know what I would have done with it? I would have had it be and not like um drawing attention to the actual time periods as far as saying the date that he left and the date that he comes back. But I would have made it the Christopher Reeve Superman leaves, and then Brandon Routh Superman comes back, and it's like, here are the differences between the early 80s and the 2000s. Like, that's what I would have done with it.
What you've had Superman maybe act in a different way, you're saying.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, he comes back and he sees how the world has changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not just that the world reacts to him, but that he reacts to the world. He's like, he comes back and sees that he left a place that was somewhat hopeful, and when he came back, it got cynical.
Yes, definitely.
That's what I would have done with
They
it.
could
That's
have
not in this
they,
movie.
they could have pushed those ideas and those discussions heavily.
Couldn't there have been
Yeah.
some social commentary
Oh,
there?
definitely.
Couldn't have been
There's
like,
none of it.
couldn't have been the world needs something like
There's
Superman.
only a little bit of it though when he's at home watching TV and there's like terrorist attacks and things like that. But it's only for like a minute and
Isn't that what the movie should have been about?
yeah.
That's the point I'm making. So what I'm saying is that like on the surface of it, for in continuity, it would have been like, the world without Superman. But in the larger real world context, it would have been the difference between what the world was like when Chris Reeve did this and what the world is like when this movie comes out.
I don't think if they went for with that idea as you're suggesting, I probably think the studios would have been a little bit too cautious to do that, and it may have become maybe in some aspects maybe too preachy or maybe too overly political for a Superman film. I think maybe for a sequel it could have been more elaborated on, but I think maybe studios would probably be a bit too scared to do that. You know.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if you're not going to go there, what is the point of this premise?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could go with that premise, but I mean, I they could have elaborated upon it more, a bit
Yeah,
more. And
yeah, I'm not saying I want an appreciate film by any
oh
stretch
no,
of the
no,
imagination, but I am saying that you could have had a little
yeah,
bit of
well, of
commentary.
course, it actually needed more time with their
I'm reaching for ideas because I'm not really seeing
yeah,
very many.
it's true, it's true. I mean, the guy, I don't think the guys who wrote this wrote X-Men 2, didn't they? Or didn't they write X-Men 3, X-Men
I think
1, maybe
I think so. Yeah.
the first two possibly. So they know they obviously seem talented enough, but I think maybe dealing with something like Superman and I think bringing him back after so long is
That was the biggest
is a
kicker.
difficult task, I think. And you've got to give them credit for where some credit's due, but it's kind of
Yes,
like
sure.
they didn't have enough experience really to sort of or have enough creative ideas to sort of bring him back on the big screen after 20 plus years or just under 20 years. Um,
Well, I think the first step for
Tough job.
something like this is avoid all the cliches.
Yeah.
And that's a rule they weren't thinking about. And I don't just mean comic book cliches. I mean, because a little bit of that can be fun if it doesn't take over your whole movie. Um, like a little bit of you can do one or two of the faster than a speeding bullet or true justice or whatever. You can do that stuff. But what I'm talking about, you can do that stuff if it doesn't take over your whole movie. I think
Yeah.
it kind of did here. But what I'm talking about is let's start with, don't give Superman a son, because I mean, unless you have a really great story to tell with it. But I say that because that's what we feel like we always have to do when we come back to a franchise for after 20 years or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously,
We've seen this in so many things now. It's like it's the obvious way to go. Don't do that. Find a different direction to go. Because and they think it's safe. And that's the thing, is that the movie's not taking enough risks.
it's. I thought it was a ballsy idea, but then to include a kid, have Superman
If
have.
they'd done something with it, it would have been
Oh yeah,
marvelous.
of course, it's a ballsy idea, which doesn't really go. Don't really go. Yeah, you say it doesn't go that far with the idea, but also makes it difficult for them with the prospects of doing sequels. And it's kind of like, what else can happen more with this kid? They're not bringing a child into Superman's life in the comic books, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Only in this film, and it didn't really pay off. Maybe like in the second film where like Superman's child is killed off, whatever it was, as a teenager, and Superman goes mad, but it's kind of like I don't know. It's yeah, I'm saying it doesn't go anywhere with it, and the kid isn't that irritating, but he's just a bit of a wet blanket.
No, I don't think he's irritating, but they don't give him anything to say. So
Yeah,
how would he have a chance to be
he's
irritating?
not.
He's just
He's not a very charming child. He's not. He's not. He hasn't got much personality, is he? So he's not likable in that. Well, that likable in a way.
yeah. Well, and you know what? I'll meet you halfway because when you said it's kind of ballsy, yeah, it is in the sense of you're immediately making Superman a little less likable, I think. And I bet a lot of people won't agree with me when I say this, but I feel like because I guess I'm a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to the Superman that they feel like they're doing here.
Yeah.
Because again, like I like Man of Steel, and a lot of people don't, and that's not a traditional Superman. But I'm talking about in the context of this, the the idea of Superman being irresponsible enough to have a child he didn't know about, I think immediately makes him less likable. And you got to work really
Yeah.
hard to make that work. Do you agree with that or not?
I agree with that. I think Superman. It's very uncharacteristic of Superman to have a child and leave, and not not be aware of what he's done.
Yeah, and of course people would say, well, he doesn't know he has the kid and all of that. But I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to be crude when I say this, but like, is he not being careful when he has sex?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind
I'm
of.
just saying he doesn't seem irresponsible like that to me.
Mm,
I mean, I'm not gonna say people got irritated when in my review I said child out of wedlock because I brought kind of the Christian thing to it. But the thing you got to keep in mind is that's kind of how he was raised.
yeah, exactly. Superman is very much.
He's raised with traditional American values, and I
Yeah,
would assume I mean I guess we're not told very. I would assume that his parents living in the Bible Belt like they did, probably Christian people.
yeah.
And they probably raised their son. I mean, I guess maybe I'm bringing too much to this that's not actually in the film, but I'm just saying that it seems to me like they probably would have raised him to get married first.
I think so. I think so. I mean, that's what Superman is all about. He wouldn't do.
That doesn't
He
seem
wouldn't
like
do that.
a
He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't have a.
so I'm not complaining that Superman has sex with Lois Lane before they get married. I'm not complaining about that. I'm saying that if he was going to do that, he'd be more careful than that. This is the last character on Earth that I would ever expect to see have a kid he didn't know about.
It's because I think there was a bit of backlash when Superman 2 came out with the idea of him having sex with Lois.
Yeah.
I mean, Margot Kidder didn't really wasn't really happy with that decision, But
Oh, really? Yeah.
so it's 50-50, I think, really. But
You can see why that would bother people.
oh, of course it does. It does. I mean, it's.
And I'm sure
I like the
think, well,
idea that he's got a child, but the whole, it's kind of wasted in this film. But it's uncharacteristic of Superman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like I always say, you can make anything work, you just have to make it work. Could I have been led to be okay with him having a child he didn't know about? Yeah, possibly. It'd be really tough, but this movie didn't do it for me.
It's also like the writers don't really understand Superman because they haven't written any interesting dialogue for him. He's doing things.
That's right.
He's doing things out of character, what you expect Superman to do and act like. So yeah, I mean that's why I think the writers ultimately failed. They got a nice idea which wasn't really told very well or elaborated on. They tried to throw in some new ideas that just don't go anywhere.
I'll give them that you get to the end and he's acknowledging that is his child and he's not pretending like it's not.
Of course, yeah.
I mean,
very much so. You're lying.
That's
you're
good.
Get it. I want some tests done. I prove it.
Yeah. He's not being like an abandoning father or anything.
So now, okay, sorry, going into special effects again. Ways.
No, go ahead.
The whole earthquake sequence. I mean, you've got. I mean, the effects here are fine. I don't have an issue with them. It's just how everything's been staged. Now he saves the taxi cab driver in a minute. He catches the sign, and it looks good. It's animated well. It looks kind of very realistic. But then he goes underground, and he's flying through all the fire. It's just a very bland composition. When you got Superman the movie where he goes under the Earth's core and it's going for all of the all for the lava and stuff. It looks fantastic the way it's been framed and stuff. But it just looks so boring. It's not the action isn't exciting visually. in this film.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's very. He doesn't know what he's doing, Bryan Singer. To be honest, it's kind of like it's just gone with the storyboards and that's it. There's nothing elaborate to it. There's nothing creative with the camera angles. But there's one cool bit though when he catches the Daily Planet globe and he rests it on the two cars. It looks really cool at how it's been framed. But that's like one bit I like. I was like, oh, that's cool.
And I still say that one of the most careless things in the world is to have your main character with a CGI face right up in the camera.
Yeah, there's one bit when
Can't deal with it. We've been talking over it. I've seen it 3 times during this action sequence that we're talking over.
Yep.
Cannot deal with that.
Yeah. It's like, when he has one bit where he flies to the city, after he sees the crack in the Earth's core, and it's CGI. It's like, oh god, it's like it's all just doing camera.
I mean, even this fire doesn't really look very real.
No, it's all a bit bland, really. Unexciting. It's like we've had this, I think even Superman 4, I think it's more exciting. I'd rather see Nuclear Man blow up the Great Wall of China than this.
Well, because at least there you had the charisma of the character carrying it. Would I be as bugged by all of the badly integrated CG in this movie if I cared more about the character? Absolutely not.
No.
I would care so much less about that. But the thing is, my attention is drawn to it because there's nothing else holding my attention.
That's right. If they got the effects down to a T, and it gave some really roller coaster ride flying sequences,
Yeah, at least I could say, okay, well, it was as much fun as playing a video game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I could at least give it that.
I think this is probably the most exciting sequence in the action scenes where Superman's whizzing past at top speed, which he should be. You can barely see him, but
right,
and he catches the globe, which is cool. It's iconic in a way. I think there's a couple of, when Superman gets stabbed and he flies up in front of the sun and gets his powers back. It's really
that's an iconic.
Yes, yeah, definitely. But there isn't many in this film. There isn't many iconic imagery and you can sort of take a photograph or take a still from the other films, and there's still something you can take from that. And it could...
That's because such a large percentage of what it's doing is homaging, which means that a lot of the iconic images are iconic because they're already iconic.
Yeah, it's true.
So, you have the the one that you see the most besides the globe in this film is him with the car earlier, but that's just because it's Action Comics.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I'm not complaining they did that. I think it's neat looking. I'm just saying that so much of this is callback that there's not enough original for you to go, oh, that's an original thing for this movie, because they weren't going for that.
I think they're trying to homage everything.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Yeah.
The comics.
This is a scrapbook.
It is, yeah, a scrapbook of ideas and put onto film.
Now you could say, because I'm always making the case that you got to take movies on their own terms, and that intention does matter, and at least to the point where you can see it inside the movie. Because I think you have to take a piece on itself. I feel like you ought to be able to review a film for its ideas and for what it's doing without ever knowing anything about the production of it.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that so what I was going to say is I think that with this you could make the case, okay, well, if all it exists for is to be a scrapbook of ideas, why is that a problem?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that would be because it's playing as if it's more than that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it wants to be this brilliant. I don't want to say brilliant. Maybe it's not going for brilliance, but it's at least trying to tell an original story, and it doesn't come off like just homage because it straight up rips entire like dialogue sequences.
It does. I mean, that's just it just kind of stinks of the lazy writing, as it were. I mean, it's either it's used those lines, obviously in reference, as you're saying, to homage, but it doesn't really satisfy the fan. They'll be like, well, I've heard that before. Show me something else. Show me something new. And they haven't really done that. I mean, you've got some... I do like the confrontation, between Lex and Superman when he gets, he loses powers. And it's quite a powerful, emotional scene. And it works. But, there's not enough of Superman being Superman, doing what he does best. There's only a couple of scenes, really. And that's what really annoyed me as a fan, as a Superman fan. We still haven't really Superman doing the iconic thing of being Superman, and saving people and doing what he does best. It's just the simplest thing, and they still can't really get it right.
And they later on they're going to make such a big deal out of the self-sacrifice and the thing in the hospital and everything, and maybe Superman's dead. I did. I guess we'll see it later, but I did enjoy the newspaper headline of Superman lives.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
fun.
yeah, definitely.
I did. Yeah, that's the kind of homage I can get behind.
That's
That
so
was
much to
funny.
Tim Burton.
But you know, you suck all the if you had any emotional weight there, and I still feel like I just didn't care enough about the character the way he's played in this to even really care that much when maybe he dies. I feel bad about that, but that's how I feel about it. Um, even if you had me, you know, with you and all sad about that, don't you kind of suck all the wind out of the sails when he just kind of like wakes up and he's fine and he just went up against this much kryptonite? Like, I guess he's that powerful. I guess nothing really can stop
Are
him.
you,
So,
are you saying?
does it make sense to make a movie where I'm supposed to worry about Superman's safety?
Um,
Shouldn't it be about more than that?
I think it should be more, definitely be more than that. But it. I think in reference to you're saying he gets up again straight after being stabbed. Obviously, she's removed a bit of the kryptonite. There's still some in there, but he repowers quickly. But then he uses all his strength to push Krypton into space, and but
Yeah.
that pushes him to the edge, doesn't it? And then he dies essentially. So
But
I
then,
like that
but
moment.
what I'm saying is,
I
what
think
sucks all the no, I like that moment, kind of. But what sucks all the wind out of the sails is, but you know, he kind of just comes back from it.
yeah, it's the Christian allegory sort of message, isn't it? Where the references where he sort of dies and resurrects like Christ, doesn't he? So it's a bit it can be borderline a bit pretentious in a way where it's trying so hard to reference the religious metaphors within the film. But I yeah
It's just trying to do several things at once that don't work together, right?
yeah yeah
Like
it
it's trying to make it's trying to make him relatable to the audience because he wants a family and he wants to be with Lois Lane and all of that stuff. And he's all sad because he can't find his place in the world. But then they do the Christian allegory thing, and now he's just a god.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's trying to do it's all these ideas, and it doesn't gel very well. It needs it, the idea the religious metaphors of Superman should be not put in your face. It's always just subtly played down. You know, you kind of know there's some sort of Christian link there, but it shouldn't be
Yeah,
pushed in your
he has
face. And that's what
yeah, he has to be a human being with the powers of a god,
yeah.
and people can look at him and misconstrue that as I mean, people within the continuity of his world can look at him and say, "Oh man, that's a god. There's no relatability," but that's because they don't know him. Then we, the audience, get to know him, and he's a person to us. I feel like Thor handles that okay,
Definitely, yeah.
but this movie, it's like he's it's almost like he's different in different scenes, almost like in one moment we're supposed to appreciate him as a human being, another moment we're supposed to appreciate him as a god. It's not cohesive.
Yeah, exactly. I do like that sequence where he pulls the ship out of the water and he sort of rips the door off and he's sort of
That looks good.
holding them. That sort of iconic. Actually, that image is quite iconic in a way where he's holding Richard and he's holding the kid. There's like what the camera pans in. That's quite good.
You know, you made a really good point earlier that I hadn't really thought about before. The notion of Richard. I mean, I had thought about the idea of Richard is a heroic character, and that's why and he puts his life on the line, and that's why Lois is with him. But something I'd never thought about before is he's maybe the most likable character in this
Oh,
film.
definitely. Yeah, I think he's really good. I think James Marsden does a good job. He does the best. What he's given. He adds a little bit more to it, and he's just a good actor. He has a bit of charm,
But
which
is part of that because he's the most consistent character in the
I
film?
think so. He knows his character's motives, and he's written. He's not a complicated character, is he? He's just
No, he's very simple, but at least we get what he's about.
also another good sequence actually, where when Superman flies towards New Krypton, you can see the look in his face that he's seen this all before. Now this is in reference to the New Krypton sequence at the beginning that was cut out because
Oh,
now he's seeing it all over again. and he's like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble here. What's happened?" Then obviously lands, and he's got no powers.
I'd also like to remind everyone that that's not a long sequence.
Which sequence that? Sorry.
The thing they cut
I
out
know.
that you're referencing, it's not a long sequence. And this film is already overbloated, it's already overlong. Even if you cut nothing else out, why couldn't you just put it back in? I don't understand. It's like 3.5, 4 minutes
Yeah.
long. I don't understand. Just put it back in. And if you have to, like, if you are right at the cusp, like, the studio will not let us release this film if it's 2 seconds longer, which I'm sure was not the problem.
I think it was Brian's. I think it was Brian Singer's decision to remove it. That's what you said.
Then all you got to do, I'm just saying, if that were the case, I could point you to 20 places where you could cut 4 minutes.
Exactly. Easily. But that whole sequence cost $10 million, and they cut it. What a waste of money.
What was his reasoning? Do you know?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think it's a quick panic attack and changed everything.
I'm not saying it makes the movie great. I'm just saying that, like, it makes the movie that we have incomplete.
Yeah.
And it's already not cohesive enough for my taste.
Yeah, I think it would have made the film more complete and easy. The idea of Superman leaving and things like that. It's showing you the answer.
I do like that we have a bald Lex Luthor through most of this.
Yes, it should be bald, shouldn't it?
Well, also just because Kevin Spacey looks great bald.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
You know what? I'm with you from what you said earlier, and I've always thought this. Could we please just break the rules and bring him back? Could we please bring him back? Because I think Kevin Spacey would be a great Lex Luthor for the Man of Steel continuity.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Do it now.
That'd be so good. But then there's hinting at other actors, aren't they? I think they're also making interesting choices in the casting rumors. But I don't, I've no complaint whatsoever if Kevin Spacey returned. I'll be like, yes, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it won't happen, but I would love that. Well, because it would be like the chance to do the version that he was born to play.
Oh, exactly.
Because wouldn't you agree that he's really skirting the line between the goofball Lex Luthor and the corporate tycoon Lex Luthor?
Yeah, he's right. I think he's right in the middle of that. He's not. Sorry, I mean, I do really like this scene here where he's
Oh yeah,
he
sure.
beats up Superman, but it's kind of like there's a really good moment when he stabs him. He's like, and he goes, "Now," doesn't he say like, "Now fly," and the music goes boom boom, like heavy bass, and he's sort of like trying to get up. Although I thought to myself, wouldn't that have been so awesome if it was Christopher Reeve in this scene with Gene Hackman or Kevin Spacey? Kevin Spacey and Christopher Reeve, that would have been sweet scene to see.
I just thought of something else that really hurts the sequence a little bit. We don't see Superman in his fortress in this movie.
Yes,
hardly at all.
No, he flies into it once, doesn't he? Because he finds the crystals are missing.
Yeah, but we don't spend enough time there. Like you could have done a really neat parallel between here's Superman in his fortress and here's Lex in his fortress.
That's good. That's a very good idea. Yeah, I mean, because I think because the crystals have been taken, he can't communicate with Jor-El to that extent. So I think that's probably why they had the idea of him not staying there for that long.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because I just now had this notion looking at Lex there where I was like, wait a minute, this is sort of like his fortress.
Yeah.
Would have been neat to kind of do that.
That'd be a good idea, yeah. A twisted version of the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, a twisted version of the Fortress of Solitude, because that's what this looks like.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is, that's right.
And so you could have done, like, I don't mean to rewrite the film, but I'm not saying that the movie's bad because it didn't do this. I'm just saying, wouldn't it have been fun if you had, like, Superman has to go find Lex Luthor's hideout, and he gets there, and oh my god, it's an evil fortress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
Don't you hate it when you watch a movie and it sparks all these great ideas in your head that seem like way cooler than what the movie actually did?
Definitely. There's a bit coming up. When he gets stabbed and he screams, they should have had his scream be so loud you can hear it across the world. That would have been awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would have been the way they would have done it in the Reeves days.
Oh, definitly. Because I remember in Lois and Clark TV show when Superman finds out like Lois is going to marry Lex Luthor, and he goes, "No!" And, and he screams, and he was like, she hears him. I should have had this, and you should have had people like in Africa, like all the birds getting shocked by the noise. It would be quite epic.
Oh, we should do a Lois and Clark podcast.
I've seen. Oh, I might end up destroying it.
I think it'd be fun. I don't mean necessarily a commentary, but like just do a podcast about it.
Yeah, cool. If you want to,
Let's talk about it.
by all
That'd
means.
be.
But yeah, I mean, because it is the first time Superman's being really hurt, isn't he, in a Superman film? So
That's a great
I should
point.
have played
Yeah.
it up a bit more, maybe.
No, I can totally see what you're saying. Because I mean, if you're not used to pain, I thought that Superman 2 did a great job of that. Like the moment that he first bleeds after he loses his powers.
Yeah, that's a really powerful scene. I like that. It's good. It works. He just realizes he's human, and he goes, maybe I should get a bodyguard from now on, because he knows he's so weak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And I mean, like Reeve he embodied that part, so he knew who that character was through and through. And they've not allowed Ralph to do that.
No.
You notice how I phrased that? Again, I'm not blaming Ralph. I just feel like they didn't let him do that.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the moment right before he falls where he's like, he's
yeah.
trying.
He just puts his arm up. He's like, "Come on," After he stabbed him, he just goes, "Ugh," just falls off. He's gone.
Yeah.
It works. It works. I mean, that's what I was saying right at the beginning of the commentary. There is parts that work, and I do like. I think Bryan Singer has a sort of vision in some parts. I do like Smallville. Even though the flashback thing is totally pointless. You've got the plane sequence. He knows what he wanted. He's got it on film, and the there's basically new Krypton building, and when Superman lands there and meets Lex, that's good. But everything else is just pure baggage, and there's no solid thing to grab hold of and enjoy. It's just fluff in a way.
We haven't talked about the Marlon Brando Jarrell thing very much. First of all,
Yeah.
I think the reconstruction looked really good.
Yeah, definitely. When he appears in the fortress, it's really good. But the bits of dialogue they've chosen just seem a bit thrown in. When the bit where
Yeah, they seem thrown together. But the reason I brought it up, I want to ask you about that, was are they using a lot of dialogue that he had recorded and never made it in
yeah,
to one of the
that's
movies?
right. Yeah, he
Okay, cool. Because I was sitting here reading the text and going, I think some of this stuff they never used before. So that's cool. At least we're not regurgitating everything we've heard before. Like at least we're hearing some new dialogue. That's neat, especially because obviously it's an actor that's passed away, and
yeah.
we get to hear stuff we didn't hear from him
That's
before.
cool. Yeah, exactly. But because we haven't heard Marlon Brando talk to Superman or have him think about his dad since he was floating in space, listening to everyone around him. When he falls into the ocean and he can, Marlon Brando's voice comes back in again. It's kind of like it's been too long. You can't have it just throw in at the last minute. And his voice they don't use the voiceover again later on. It's only used in small bits, and I don't know, it just seems a bit out of place.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do
Yeah,
because they're trying so hard to make this a father-son story,
doesn't
but I
work.
think that well, and also a lineage story, also a a progression. We had Jor-El, we had Superman, and now he doesn't know it, but he has a son. Do you think that and I guess we'll talk. I guess we can talk about this later. But do you think that the realization, because we've been doing this for a while, but we still have lots of time to go, Oliver.
I know, another 45 minutes. Oh my god.
Yeah, let's just get back and relax. We got time to talk about whatever we want to. Don't you think, or sorry, not don't you think, do you think, because I'm on the fence about it, that the revelation for Superman that this kid is actually his comes too late in the film for those themes to work?
Yes, definitely. It should have happened already. I think he should have had some sort of slight notion because Superman, he's not stupid. He's supposed to be stupidly intelligent. Very smart character. But you think he would have figured out something by now. With the kid.
Yeah, well, and also it adds dimension to the love triangle because it's a really typical love triangle at first. It's irritating to me at the beginning of the movie. These two people find a kindredness between each other when he Richard saves him, and we find out, okay, he's a heroic character too. It's not an accident that the thing he's great at doing is flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. all that kind of
But
stuff. And
this whole sequence now, him flying a plane, it's so boring. It's like you got this
yeah,
great
I said
visuals.
earlier, I got so sick of helicopter. I don't know why I always remember this as a helicopter. It's not a helicopter; it's a plane.
It's like you got great special effects. It looks really good. There's no denying that. But
Yeah,
it's just so boring to watch. It's just yeah. It's like something you've seen in a James Bond film where he steals a plane. He's like, oh my god, I've got to try and fly off in time, and it's exactly the same thing. It's like the bit in Goldeneye when he steals the plane at the beginning and he dives off and he gets in the plane and he flies off just in the nick of time. It's just like that. It's just like I've seen it before. Seen it all before.
but yeah, what I was saying about the love triangle
Sorry,
is
yeah.
like if no, you're fine. If he finds that out, and I'm glad you said that. If he finds out earlier in the film that that son's actually his, it just makes all that more complex and interesting, and not just the oh man, you stole my girlfriend and had a kid with her. Now I forget because it's been a while since I've seen this. Does Richard think that kid is his?
Yes, he does.
That's messed up.
I know. That would be really good for a sequel. Richard starts to become more evil because he's
That's
been the nice guy and then he's lost
messed
his
up.
child. You know what I mean? That would be pretty sweet. But
Well, yeah, but then it's all Superman's fault, and that makes me like him less. And
yeah,
I guess maybe it could play. I don't know. I'm just saying this is so typical, and there's not enough of a reason for it. And so I'm grasping at straws, going, well, maybe they could make me like this. Like I want to be okay with it, but I'm just not.
one thing is, I think Bryan Singer had too many people around him going, "Oh yeah, you're fine. Your ideas are great." They should have had someone on there saying, "Look,
You think he had enablers? Is that what you're saying?
I think he had really, producers who were basically a pushover, and they didn't put their foot down and say, "Look, you need to. The script needs more work done. The
You
things."
realize you're describing Lucas in the prequels, right?
Oh yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, because Bryan Singer at this point, he can probably do whatever he wanted. He's got the biggest budget ever, and he's getting to do a Superman
Yeah.
film he wants to do, and making a
Well, and
sequel.
that's what makes it feel lame for a lot of fans. Like if you
Yeah,
got the biggest budget ever, this is what we got.
yeah. Look at that.
I think a lot of fans would just go, and again, I don't mean to be fanboyish about it. I'm just saying, like, he came at this from kind of a fanboy place, right?
Yeah,
Where he's like, I love the Donner films. I want to recreate the magic of that. But he didn't really do that. And so,
yeah.
you get this movie where we can all sit around and go, well, if I had all the money under the sun, here's the movie I'd make, and it would be really fun. And I don't know, maybe that's the thing, is that it's just not fun enough.
It's not fun. It lacks the
Where's the
charm, and
gusto?
it lacks the charm and lacks the energy of the other films. I mean, the weird thing is, it's kind of like, I mean, I didn't really realize how popular Superman the movie is to a lot of people now. I think it's got popular over the years. I mean, since the internet sort of came about, people began to express their opinions on certain superhero films. Superman the movie generally makes many people's top lists of favorite movies
Absolutely.
with superhero films. And I'm finding even younger people, I mean, people on my Facebook group or people on YouTube who are like in their 20s, early 20s or late teens, they love Superman the movie. They think it's one of their best, one of their favorite films. So I'm very surprised that they sort of have a strong affection for it. And I thought this film was made to appease an older Superman fan base, because Superman films are very old. It's very to make a sequel essentially to a film that's to Superman the movie or Superman 2, which is like 30 years old at the time, or just nearly 30 years old, would have been a bit wary. I think the studios would have gone, no, I don't think so. I think we should go for a reboot. I mean, it's they took a chance and it didn't really work. But
Well, and you're right. I said they don't take enough risks. That was a risk, but then they didn't go all the way with it, did they?
they did. No, I mean, when you were saying, it's trying to make a homage film to Superman the movie, but it's kind of like what age range is this film aimed at? Is it aimed at 30-plus-year-olds who remember the films, or is it? I mean, as I was saying, more people love Superman the movie now, but maybe they are because they grew up in it or on repeats like I did, or watched it via someone else recommended it
But I
to
think
them.
that film still has somewhat of a universal charm to it,
It
right?
does, yeah. Which I think it's great. I think it's fabulous.
But that's the thing, is that this could have had that. Like I think what he was really missing, what Snyder was really missing with this was you do your best in telling a good story and in having a lot of charisma with your protagonist to recapture the universal appeal of that without just regurgitating everything that worked about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I would want ideally, if I had all this money, I'd get the writers of the animated series of Superman to write a film. I'd be like, write me a film, write me a sequel to the Richard Donner film, and they'd do it. They'd give you something because if those animated films of Superman, animated sorry, TV show of Superman was put onto film, people would think Superman is the coolest character on the block because
Well,
you know they're great stories, great action. If they put them onto film, boom, it would be ideal. But
let me ask you this. Could this not have worked as a reboot in the style of the original?
um,
Because I think that's what they think they made.
yeah, I think so. I mean, when
Do you see what I'm saying? And it just doesn't quite work that way because it feels too much like a sequel, but then a sequel to what? What I'm saying is you cast everybody very somewhat differently, so you can have this Lex Luthor that's more comic book. What I'm saying is you update stuff, but then maybe Krypton still looks like it did. Maybe Marlon Brando is still Jor-El and stuff like that. And maybe you still have the same theme song. Like could you have gotten away with that?
um,
Because they didn't get away with this. I think
well,
that would have been better.
I think that's what they did. It's kind of rebooting with taking some ideas from that universe, but
But what makes it
it's
what makes it not quite work is that it's also a sequel to a lot of that stuff. Like if you just started over, I
yeah,
don't mean do it. I don't mean do another origin. I mean like
yeah.
just have everything established already.
Well, yeah,
But like
it has that, but it's also like this continuity is still out of whack. It doesn't. It tries to
that's what I
replicate.
mean. Like you could just get rid of the continuity but keep the style similar.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, I'll be happy with that. I'll be really, because I said, Man of Steel. I was thinking it'd be so good if they had the John Williams theme. Even though Hans Zimmer's theme is good, I enjoy it, but you can still use that theme, and it's taking parts that work and just, redoing it. But it's taking stuff that's already established. Um, so yeah, I think the idea would be quite sound. What you're suggesting.
I think a lot of people who don't like that movie would have liked it a lot less even if John Williams scored it in there. Because I think people would have gone, well, this is not that Superman. This world is too cynical for this idealized sounding song. That's what people would have said.
Oh, of course, isn't it? If you said, if they actually released it like that, and there would have been a bit of an outcry or people upset, but you can't please everyone, unfortunately.
By the way, it's gonna be really interesting when we talk about that movie.
See,
When we
I
talk
love the
about
bit here actually when he lifts New Krypton into space, the music it homages 2001: Space Odyssey, which is quite cool.
Oh, good point. I never thought of that. You're always opening my eyes to things. You know, homages and scores, creepy foreheads.
But it would have been awesome though if they threw that New Krypton into space and the teaser trailer for Superman Returns 2, whatever, would have been Brainiac. Would have been Brainiac, and he found New Krypton, and he found those crystals, and the robot version of Brainiac, and he finds he knows where Superman is, and that'll be the teaser trailer for Superman 2. Because the idea of New Krypton floating in space and those crystals still on there, it's an interesting premise. They could have gone with more, could have done something quite cool with that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that anybody just watching this movie, not looking up anything about it or whatever, would have never thought to call that New Krypton.
Yeah, it's kind of things where the film expects you to know some stuff. Because I read the prequel comics before this came out, so I knew some backstory already. And obviously, being a Superman fan, you're already aware what's going on the production in terms of story because you're following the film. But I think a lot of people just felt confused when they went to see it and didn't know what it was. As I said earlier, the film doesn't know what it wants to be. Oh, that's really bad. When Superman's flying down towards Earth and you can see the shot of the city, it's so bad. The CGI is awful.
I mean, it's important to remember that people in their basements now can make really good looking CGI.
I can, yeah.
So it's hard to be impressed with not very good looking CG
But
in a huge Hollywood film like this.
Superman went with Sony ImageWorks for the effects, and Sony ImageWorks did Spider-Man the movie, the first Spider-Man film. Now the CGI in that is awful. Now things stepped up for Spider-Man 2 and did look amazing, but I think they may have had some assistance on that, but it doesn't seem to work.
Okay, that curl in the front of his head when he's lying on the ground is ridiculous. God, it looks like a roller coaster. Like it's huge. It's like it's doing loop de loops. Okay, I know you kind of said this earlier, but if you don't mind, I'd like to readdress something
Sure.
because I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this footage in the hospital, and I'm thinking. I get the idea of a color palette for this scene being a little bit depressing because Superman looks like he might have died.
Yeah.
But just overall for this whole film, because it reminded me of this again, like if the whole point of this is to recapture the magic of the Donner films, why is the color palette so dreary
It is. It is. It's.
through this movie? It's really drab.
I know. It doesn't. You need to have something eye-popping visual to Superman. His suit needs to stand out, look bright and colourful. And you have the dark imagery in Batman because it's a dark character, but with Superman, it's the polar opposite. And
Like, isn't it sad if that's what updating things now means?
what it does, they go, "Oh, we've got to be dark. It's cool. It's cool to be dark and brooding and all that
It's like we'll
nonsense."
do, yeah, and then we'll have a cool juxtaposition between that and the corny stuff. I'm like, no, that's not a juxtaposition. That's just a clashing
Well,
tones.
that's why the Marvel films kind of worked really well because they weren't afraid to go, yeah, this is Iron Man. He's colourful and bright. So it's Captain America.
Yeah, and then they have that. There are those
Yes.
newspapers. I love that.
That's
That's
me.
really funny. Um, that's great. I want that newspaper.
I want the paper on the side saying Superman says "Drop dead the kid" from Superman 4.
Yeah. That's always funny. But no, again, I'm not saying that you can't have a dark film with light elements or a light film with dark elements. I mean, if you look back to antiquity, the best stories always make you laugh and cry at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
You need both, but you have to be able to mix those things. And I think in this movie we have scenes that are bright and chipper and scenes that are dark and brooding.
Also, another fact about the film, I
Yes.
think Metropolis seems really small. I mean, you're showing long shots of the city, but
Oh, that's interesting.
you're only given like three sets. You're given the bar, you're given the Daily Planet, and you're given the street outside, which is not covered very well. And now you've got in a minute, Lois goes to the hospital, and there's a huge panoramic shot. The camera pans up, and the streets are filled with people, and that's the only sense of scale to the city where everyone's come to see Superman. But you haven't seen this, array of huge amount of population in this film. It feels
I
very,
think it's hard to keep it consistent when most of your city shots are done in CGI. I
yeah,
think we see that with a lot of movies now. I felt that way watching Thor for my rewind on that
all the
because I mean,
first,
like, yeah, you look at Asgard
yeah,
and it feels like it's empty. There's nobody in it until you get to the scene where he's supposed to be become king, and then you've got all these people there, and you're like, oh, there's like a populace.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I suppose it's kind of like the film feeling a bit set bound, in a way.
exactly.
And it doesn't feel what you're seeing on screen isn't real. There isn't I suppose there isn't a verisimilitude towards this film. What you're
You
seeing,
you want
what you're
you want the
seeing,
place to feel lived in.
yeah, yeah, exactly. What you're seeing on film isn't, you don't believe it. It's not real in a way. And that's what I didn't like about it, because Metropolis in the other ones was basically New York, and it didn't shy away from that. It had Statue of Liberty, blah blah blah. In this film, it tries to create this sort of this new world with CGI by sort of adjusting the cities and stuff. And
And I kind of appreciate the attempt, at making it its own
it
place,
doesn't look
but it
fake.
doesn't.
It doesn't look fake. It doesn't look 2D in a way, but it's kind of doesn't have its
No,
own
I mean
character.
that's somewhat of an attempt at making it feel like a little bit more of a comic book universe, right? Like here's a city that's not like our cities, but then, like you said, there's those places where it looks too much like Gotham,
That's right. Yeah.
and so you're like, okay, so all comic book cities have gargoyles in them. I'm not saying we saw gargoyles. I'm just saying we might as well have, because,
Well, like,
or maybe it's just the way it was lit.
is it
Like
like
maybe the architecture isn't as gothic as I think it is in my head. Maybe it's just that the color palette again is so dark and
yeah, the
brooding.
color palette is just drab.
Maybe that's the
Do
problem.
you remember, right, when you first saw the Superman Returns teaser trailer? I was so pumped after seeing that trailer. It was one of the best teasers I've ever seen. I was like, wow, this is amazing. We've got like, it's basically Superman 5. It's like it's the Superman film everyone wanted to see, you know, a new one. You know, it's got Marlon Brando's voice, it's got the iconic imagery, and then you see the film, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's not, it doesn't look like it was supposed to. You know, it's too depressing, doesn't deliver on what I was sort of teased with in these trailers. But it's actually,
People really got their hopes up for this movie, and for good reason,
it
because
did,
it had been that long since we'd had a Superman film.
yeah,
You know, I mean, Superman 4 was what, 87?
yep, that's right. I mean, 'cause Superman has always been on screen, no matter what, film, TV, radio. You know, Superman 4 ended, then you had the cartoon from the 88, and then you had Superboy TV show, then you had Lois and Clark, then
Yeah, Smallville.
you had Smallville. But now we've got Superman back on screen, just one film, but it hasn't been anything in between. There's still something else coming in the works. I'm sure it'll be an animated TV show kicking about again. But Superman's always there. There's always something with Superman for people to
Yeah, and
enjoy.
I think it's important to remember too that Superman, you know, you said Superman's always been on film, and that's true almost from its inception, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's
you know,
always, you know, you got,
the Fleischer cartoons are so early. I mean, like Superman happens the comics in '38. All immediately you have radio and television.
yes, yes.
You know, right away. So it's important to note that Superman's history is as rich on screen as it is in the comic books.
That's right, that's right. But they haven't. The thing is, what's happening is, you know, they're not. I think maybe you know, me and you were expecting too much from
Maybe so.
just too much from these films, or maybe expecting, you know, a certain way because we're people don't like change in a way, do they? they
Well, yeah, and that's important to remember too. Is we're conditioned to like certain
yeah, I
things, but
mean,
then again, you and I, even before this, had experienced plenty of different kinds of Superman.
we have, but it's kind of like with sequels. You know, you kind of want you want something the same but different. Sequels are very hard to do, and with this kind of being a sequel, remake, reboot, it's given you something what you want in a way, but it hasn't given you something that's new enough to be satisfied with. And that's the way it ultimately fails, I think. And I would love to re-edit this film, just put all the scenes back in and trim it down and adjust the color. I'll be happy with it. There is actually fan edits of this film, and it does work. I do have a copy of it, but it's something I think Bryan Singer should return to. I think and sort of sort this film out because it is a bit of a jumbled mess, isn't it?
Yeah, because again, you've just got a bunch of elements that don't make a greater whole.
And you got what, and also you got Martha Kent there. You know, she can't say anything because you know Clark's her son.
Yeah,
Um,
that's sad.
it is sad, but they could have played that up more. They should have had her on the news. You know, watching the TV. Sorry, watching the news and things like that. And
They should have had her on the news.
sorry,
She's
not on
just
the
like
news.
she's
Watching
like,
the
yeah,
news.
I'm Superman's mom, dude. Let me
But
in.
it's kind of like referencing the comic book, isn't it? When Superman died or had his funeral, but
Yeah, and
she
I
she
really
couldn't be
like that
there.
they went. I kind of like that they went there just for the again the feeling of that.
Yeah.
But like you say, like I said earlier, it's a bunch of elements separately that are kind of neat. But then you put them together, and what have you got?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
By the way, this has nothing to do with anything. But you mentioned Death of Superman, and that's my favorite thing. So I'm gonna say something about that. I really think the Man of Steel universe is just the perfect place to do that story.
They are, but do you think it's stupid if they did it in the second one, or you know?
No, not the second one.
Okay.
Obviously, we're doing Superman, Batman, not there. I just mean eventually. I think that guy in that universe, what it looks like and everything. I think that's the perfect place to
Yeah,
do
you
Doomsday.
could. You've already
Really want to see
you've
that.
seen epic destruction already, and you could easily play off the part, and they've already introduced this science fiction element. So yeah, Doomsday, boom, fine. But you just say,
Just want to throw that out there. I want that. I want it bad, Oliver. I already sort of got a little bit of my No Man's Land in Dark Knight Rises, so I really want it's time for Death of Superman. That needs to
it's
happen.
time for Superman to die again,
Yeah, I never cared about Superman until he got killed.
like everyone else, you know.
seriously, Death of Superman was, well, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And
Because I was so
Death of
upset. I was
Superman
so
was my
upset when it happened.
introduction to comic collecting.
When I was a
I mean,
kid.
that's how I got into comics.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that was the first. I remember when it happened as a kid. I was quite upset. I was like, "Oh no!" Because as a kid, being dealt a blow because Superman dies and Christopher Reeve breaks his neck. It's like as a kid, it's quite. It's a little. As a Superman fan, you dealt too many bad blows.
I appreciate why this scene is supposed to be emotional, with her sitting down trying to come up with the words to write for an article that is the opposite of the other article that she wrote.
Yeah, got back on
Why
the word.
the
I think she.
why the world needs Superman. It's like, oh, I'm gonna retcon that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think she.
I get that. The difficulty I have with it is, again, I don't feel enough of a spark between them, and I don't feel like this Superman has enough dimension to be anything more than he's got superpowers. So I mean, I feel like that article would be the world needs Superman because without him, we'd have new Krypton.
But I think as we did reference earlier that we did like this scene where he talks to his child. Um, we delivers the speech, doesn't he, which was Marlon Brando's speech from the first film.
Yeah. The scene itself, I like. Oh. Let me mention that when I back when I did my rewind, I had to do an addendum to that rewind because I didn't pick up on. She whispers to him that that's his son.
Didn't you?
I did the first time. I'm sorry, not the first, but when I did that review, I did not pick up on
Oh,
that. But
really?
I
Okay.
don't think. Yeah, I don't know why. I needed somebody to tell me that. I don't know if I'm stupid or what, but like I did not pick up on it.
You need it spelt out for you, didn't you? I know
So
because
I don't know. So I'm complaining that this movie, like I'm sort of complaining this movie spells things out too much, but then that's a place where I feel like it's not explicit enough. Maybe it's just me, but I was like in that review, I was like, so like, why does he know he has a kid? And then I was inundated with, well, because of the whispering, and I'm like, well, how could I be absolutely certain that that's what she was whispering?
yeah, yeah. She should have they should have had maybe a little bit of an audio bit there so you can actually hear her talk.
I mean, I
It's
guess
just
the fact
right.
that
It's just
he's there, obviously they're right. The fact that he's there proves that that's what she whispered to him.
yeah.
But I don't know that it plays like it's supposed. I'm just saying. I don't know if this was a reflection on me or the film. That's all I'm saying.
I think the acting for him there with the kid doing the speech. I think it's the best bit of acting he does in the film.
I think it's the only bit of acting they allow him to do in the film.
Come on, Brandon, act, please. Okay.
I'm that's not quite fair. I'm exaggerating. That was a bit of hyperbole.
maybe Brian Singer gave him a bit of George Lucas direction, faster and more intense. There we go.
Um, she doesn't seem like a smoker to me.
Nah, she doesn't. I think she'd smoke.
Which
I
I
think
don't know what that means, because obviously there's all kinds of people that smoke that you wouldn't know they smoke. So I don't know what I mean when I say that. I guess I just mean she's not the same Lois Lane.
yeah, I know.
And it's just like Lex Luthor, right? Where they just have him do stuff that the other guy did.
Oh,
But it's
exactly.
not really in his character to do that because he's playing it a different
Yeah,
way.
I think she still should have come out with a pipe.
So do you do you think Kate Bosworth could have been a great Lois Lane? Has she gotten the
Nah,
stuff to do?
nah, she's rubbish. Absolutely rubbish.
You heard it here first, folks. She's rubbish.
Yeah, she's poo. Terry Hatcher was a good Lois Lane. I mean,
Oh, I like
she
Terry
captured
Hatcher.
the sort of spark of Lois, and
Well, she was
I
spunky and sarcastic.
exactly.
Where's the spunk with
There's
this
none of it. There's
character?
none of it. It's
It's just replaced with tortured nonsense, right?
exactly. But this bit here,
And again, I'm not saying she can't be conflicted. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, because Margot Kidder was conflicted. Look at the end
yeah,
of Superman 2. She's conflicted.
yeah, exactly.
You lose all the conflictedness with the magic kiss, but she was conflicted. Okay, here comes the worst CG in the entire movie.
Well,
It's coming.
it's like he's flying over the city, but I remember watching this in IMAX and I could hardly see him. I was like, is this?
Look! He comes right up in the. He's gonna practically wink at you
Yeah,
in CGI.
look at that CG Superman.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
And this movie costs how much to make now? I mean, really? Like, oh, that bugs me.
it does.
Dude, I gotta apologize. I feel like we sat here for two and a half hours and just complained and complained and complained.
Well, it's because we're Superman fans and we weren't happy with the film. It is, as I said, there's moments which do work, and the moments which I like, but it's kind of just fan service, which is fine. I don't mind fan service because, in the day, the film is made first to please the fans, but it just ultimately fails in its ideas and its direction, and the dialogue's just bland. Characters wasted. Kevin Spacey's totally wasted. Brandon Ralph, not much to do. Kate Bosworth, totally miscast. Frank Langella, amazing actor, not given much to do. It's lackluster.
That should be your whole review of this film. Just ooh,
Dude, totally bad.
dude. This is going to be somewhat of a complex sentiment, but tell me if you agree with this. I feel like if you like Man of Steel, because obviously if you didn't like that movie, then you're not going to agree with this. But if Man of Steel is a movie you think is going more in the right direction
Yeah.
for a Superman franchise, or at least you thought it was a lot more fun than this movie, do you feel like maybe we needed something like this as an experiment so we could get something more comic book?
I think so, yeah.
I
It's
think we needed that. I think we had to get this out of our system, right? We're like, okay, the Donner days are behind us now. It is okay to actually borrow ideas from the comic books now.
yeah, yeah.
We can go there.
It's like it's now this film, if it worked, it could have, continued the Donner universe. I have no problem with the film being set in Donner universe, but it just didn't deliver really on what some of the fans sort of in their mind wanted the ideal Superman film for it to continue on from Christopher Reeve's legacy. But Man of Steel really sort of cemented the idea that we can now push forward with introducing more characters, having more science fiction fantasy thrown in, and not just be stuck with Lex Luthor, trying to.
Yeah, and borrow from the source material
Oh yeah,
more.
yeah, exactly.
Because the great thing about the Donner movies is, we separate this out in our minds now a lot as fans. I think you got the Donner universe, and you have the comic books, and the Donner universe didn't borrow from the. Well, it did actually a lot. I mean, like a lot of people didn't know who General Zod was. That
Oh,
was not a real popular comic book character.
exactly. And now,
So they were mining from the material. They were looking for stuff. And I mean, that's really neat. But the problem was those movies got things popular, and then we see them as movie things, not comic things, and then they keep regurgitating them because it's safe.
exactly, there's Superman does have some really fantastic villains, and just as interesting as Batman's, but they have not been put on screen properly or been given a chance. So,
Well, I think that's why people think that Superman has no rogues gallery or not much of
oh,
one because
exactly.
the movies act like they have to recycle stuff, so we haven't or make something up. And I'm not saying you can't do a great made up villain in a movie. I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm just saying that wouldn't you like to see some great villains you hadn't seen before? Now, I don't agree with you that Superman's villains are as good as Batman's villains, but I think he's got a few that are fantastic, and we
Well,
ought to
yeah,
see
I
him.
mean that would fit
He would be
well.
seen. We would see Superman as having a better rogues gallery if more people got to experience them through the mediums that are popular, because not everybody reads comic books. So this has been great for Marvel, where like there's all these great characters
Yeah,
that
yeah,
nobody 10 years ago knew who Loki was,
that's true.
and now
Now he's
he's
like the
this
biggest, he's
huge.
like most popular character out of the
He's
Marvel
been in
films,
three
isn't he?
movies now. Yeah, yeah. So wouldn't you like to see these movies do that for? And I mean, yeah, people watching the animated movies and the TV show and stuff know this stuff, but like the masses, wouldn't you like to see that for Brainiac? Wouldn't you like to see
Oh,
that for Metallic?
oh, definitely, yeah. I want
Characters
to
like
see Brainiac the most. I think the idea of Brainiac from the animated TV show, where he's taken all these worlds, destroyed all these worlds, and stored all the data to himself. I love that idea. I think he tries to tempt Superman back, doesn't he, with like visions of Krypton. I think it's a fantastic
I think it'd be
idea.
fun to do a total. I think it'd be fun to do a totally cosmic epic where Brainiac shows up and puts the whole Earth in a bottle,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and Superman has to get the Earth back.
That would be blow people's minds.
Come on, do that. That'd be great, right? Just do that. I know he grabs cities, not planets. I get it.
But at the end credits, like, do you remember the end credits for Superman, the Superman films, even Supergirl, the movie, have a very elaborate end credits, and this is just like stock black background with white text. Whereas some of the Harry Potter films would have a very much elaborate end title sequence.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean now it's just
I don't need everything to have that. I mean, I'm okay with just black. That's
it's kind of like you've made the effort to have the opening title sequence, but why not for the end? I don't know. I'm just being picky.
yeah, no, you are being picky, but I see what you're saying. I think it would be fair to say that because we got the great, fun, elaborate opening sequence, they might have thought it would have been overkill to do it here. But then again, we've been sitting here
Hey,
so long, we probably.
you've got over 200 million. You've got the money.
Yeah, no, I
Spend
know,
it.
but what I was going to say is, to your point, maybe we've been sitting here long enough that by the time you get to the end credits, you would forget what that title sequence looked like.
Yeah, you probably just left as soon as possible. Right, so let's go. Yeah.
So you wouldn't be thinking, oh yeah, they did that elaborate thing in the first place.
Probably not.
No, I cannot believe how different my feelings on this movie are from the first time I saw it.
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, the first time I saw it, as I said, I was very much unsure, and I wanted to like it. I really did. And I bought it on Blu-ray. I got the box set, whatever. I own it, so I must have. There is some enjoyment from it, or maybe because I bought the box set, I was forced to have it. But it's interesting to look back on. I think maybe over time people will look more fondly upon this film and look at it a different perspective. And people's opinions, are always changing. So some people may hate it one year, and a couple of years later, they go, "Oh, I quite like it because you've mellowed to it, or you enjoy some of the sequences." Maybe in a few more years, me and you will probably we may like it more. I don't know.
I don't know. From a story perspective, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think
So
it's always
for
gonna.
me, so
I think it's always gonna
I
get.
feel like it'll be remembered as a curiosity. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
This feels like, I mean, it's interesting to look at it at this point as like a piece of history where you go back and, like I said, you kind of had to have this in order to get to where we're at now. But like I said, people who didn't like Man of Steel would probably think, well, yeah, and then that didn't deliver for me
You
either.
know what's weird, right? If you look at the ratings, I think it's like Metacritic or IMDb.
Right.
Superman Returns has got a better rating.
Well, again, it's a safer film. For a lot of people, it's not offensive like Man of Steel was.
Yeah, it's not like it's it's kind of
Some fans would probably put these up against each other and say, well, Superman Returns, he comes back and finds out he has a kid that he didn't know about, and maybe that's not Superman's morality, but freaking Man of Steel, he kills someone. I'm
yeah.
sure some people look at it like that.
Or Superman Returns, you actually see him save people. That's what some people have argued about. But
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But hey,
Well, anyway, that's the end of the title of the end credits. So that's the end of our podcast. Thanks a lot for joining me again, Oliver. And let's try to make it not 6 months before
no,
we see each
let's
other
get
again.
this. What do you want to do next? Supergirl or Superman 2: The Donna Cut?
Oh man, I feel like we should put off Supergirl as long as we can.
That'd be fun. It'd be fun.
But no, let's do Supergirl next.
Okay.
Let's do it next. Let's get everything sort of in this continuity out of the way before we go back to a redux of it. So yeah, we'll do Supergirl next time, and anybody that wants to join us, you can come and feel our pain. It'll be great. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and Oliver, it's always a pleasure, pal.
Thank you. I need to stand up though. My bum's gone to sleep.
See everybody. I'm Captain Logan.
Bye bye.